Hello everyone, and welcome to the Fictional Vortex. So we are back with an interesting movie on what if Naruto was the Fox God, Monarch, a rival to the gods Naruto x Hae-In solo leveling. But before we start, I just want to remind you to please subscribe to my channel and hit the like button if you enjoy my content. Let's start the story. Chapter 1. The Fox God Awakens. The air split open like torn silk. Reality itself seemed to protest as dimensions ground against one another, creating a rift that pulsed with unnatural light. From within this cosmic wound, a figure fell, first as mere shadow, then solidifying into human form as he passed through the boundary between worlds. Naruto Uzumaki crashed onto the rain-slicked roof of a skyscraper, the impact cratering concrete beneath him. For several moments, he remained motionless, face pressed against the cold surface as droplets of rain pelted his back. His breathing came in ragged gasps, each inhale carrying unfamiliar scents, metal, pollution, electricity, alien sensations flooding his awakening consciousness. "What happened?" he whispered, his voice hoarse from disuse. Images Florida shed through his mind. A catastrophic battle, worlds colliding, Kurama's chakra enveloping him as reality tore apart. Then, nothing. An endless void where time held no meaning. Slowly, painfully, Naruto pushed himself to his knees. His body felt simultaneously foreign and familiar, as though something fundamental had changed while he slept. His traditional orange and black attire remained, though tattered and scorched in places. Golden markings shimmered beneath his skin when he moved, vanishing when he focused on them. The skyline of Seoul stretched before him, a constellation of neon and L that existed nowhere in the world he remembered. Massive skyscrapers pierced the low-hanging clouds while holographic advertisements painted the night in electric blues and pinks. Flying vehicles, own kind of advanced technology, zipped between buildings. "This isn't home," he murmured, rising unsteadily to his feet. Memory fragments crystallized. The Fourth Shinobi War, the Otsutsuki threat. Then something new. Beings of incomprehensible power descending upon multiple worlds simultaneously. The monarchs, the rulers, cosmic entities battling across dimensions with Earth caught in the crossfire. A distant siren wailed, pulling Naruto from his reverie. Several blocks away, emergency lights flashed around what appeared to be a massive crystalline structure that hadn't been there moments before, a jagged obelisk of translucent material that pulsed with malevolent energy. "A gate," he whispered, the knowledge surfacing from somewhere deep within his fragmented memory. Without conscious thought, Naruto found himself in motion. He leapt from the rooftop, channeling chakra instinctively to his feet as he bounded across the urban landscape. The sensation was simultaneously familiar and strange. His energy responded differently, feeling both more potent and more volatile than before. Each jump carried him impossibly far, his body lighter than he remembered. As he approached the disturbance, the chaotic scene came into focus. Police barriers established a perimeter around the massive crystal structure, the gate, while armored individuals coordinated evacuation efforts. These weren't Anbu or standard military. They wore specialized suits with glowing runes embedded in the material. Hunters, his mind supplied, though the term felt foreign on his tongue. Landing silently on a nearby rooftop, Naruto observed the operation below. Civilians streamed away from the danger zone while the hunters maintained defensive positions. Their weapons, a mix of traditional and technologically advanced, hummed with energy that reminded him of chakra but possessed a different signature altogether. "Mana," he murmured, another fragment of knowledge clicking into place. The crystalline gate pulsed ominously, its surface cracking in places to reveal swirling darkness within. Something was coming through. And from the escalating urgency in the hunters' movements, it wasn't going to be friendly. "All civilians clear the area immediately. This is a class emergency." A voice boomed through loudspeakers. Hunter Association personnel maintain position. S-rank signatures detected. The first creature emerged with explosive force, shattering a portion of the gate as it burst into reality. It resembled a wolf in the same way a nightmare resembles a dream. Recognizable in basic structure but twisted into something horrific. Standing nearly 3 meters tall, its body rippled with muscles beneath midnight fur. 6 ruby eyes glowed with malevolent intelligence, and its maw dripped wit. luminescent saliva that hissed and steamed where it touched the ground. Shadow Wolf, Alpha Class, Naruto found himself saying, knowledge emerging from nowhere. More creatures followed, twisted approximations of bears, serpents, and insects, each bearing the same otherworldly distortions. The assembled hunters engaged immediately, energy weapons discharging brilliant beams while those with Sei combat specialization moved with enhanced speed and strength. Despite their training and equipment, Naruto could see the hunters were outmatched. The monsters moved with unnatural coordination, gesting intelligence beyond bestial instinct. 3 hunters already lay motionless on the ground, their comrades forced into increasingly defensive positions. A particular hunter caught Naruto's attention, a slender woman wielding a longsword that gleamed with pale blue light. Unlike her colleagues who fought in coordinated teams, she operated alone, her blade describing perfect arcs through the air as she engaged multiple shadow creatures simultaneously. Her movements possessed a fluid grace that spoke of mastery beyond technique, an artistry in violence that Naruto recognized from the greatest shinobi he had known. Even as he admired her skill, he saw what she could not, a massive shadow serpent coiling behind her, preparing to strike while she dispatched a wolf creature. Without conscious decision, Naruto moved. The distance between rooftop and battlefield vanished in an instant. One moment he observed from above, the next, he stood between the woman and the serpent, his hand raised as the creature lunged. Chakra, or something like it, surged through him, manifesting as golden energy that engulfed his arm. Rasengan, he called instinctively, the familiar technique forming in his palm, yet transformed. What had once been a spiraling sphere of pure chakra now resembled a miniature sun, threads of crimson interweaving with gold as it expanded. The serpent struck the Rasengan and simply ceased to exist. No explosion, no resistance, just total molecular disintegration as the beast made contact with Naruto's technique. The energy release created a concussive wave that staggered nearby combatants, both human and monster alike. For a heartbeat, silence fell across the battlefield as all eyes turned to the newcomer. The swordswoman spun to face him, her blade instinctively raised in a defensive position. Her face, partially visible beneath a tactical helmet, registered shock, not at his sudden appearance, but at something else entirely. "Who are you?" she demanded, her voice carrying unexpected authority despite her youth. "What are you?" Before Naruto could respond, reality itself seemed to hiccup. The crystalline gate pulsed, its structure destabilizing as cracks spread across its surface like lightning. The lead hunter, a broad-shouldered man with lieutenant insignia, shouted orders through his communication device. "The gate is collapsing. All personnel evacuate immediately. I repeat, immediate evacuation." The swordswoman ignored the order, her eyes never leaving Naruto. "You smell different," she said, her brow furrowed in confusion. Naruto had no time to contemplate this strange statement as the gate's destabilization accelerated. Energy tendrils whipped outward, slicing through concrete and metal with frightening ease. The remaining hunters retreated, dragging their wounded. But several shadow creatures used the chaos to break through the perimeter, heading toward the civilian evacuation routes. "We need to close it," Naruto said, DGE continuing to surface from the depths of his fragmented memory. "If the gate fully collapses while open, the dimensional tear will expand exponentially." The woman stared at him, clearly torn between duty and suspicion. "That's S-rank knowledge. Who exactly are you?" "Naruto Uzumaki," he replied simply. "And right now, I'm probably the only one who can stop this." Another violent pulse from the gate punctuated his statement. The shockwave strong enough to shatter windows in nearby buildings. The woman glanced at the disintegrating structure, then back to Naruto. "I'm Hae-In, S-rank hunter," she said tersely. "If you can really help, do it. I'll handle the escapees." Without waiting for his response, she turned and sprinted toward the shadow creatures that had broken through her sword, leaving trails of pale light in her wake. Naruto watched her for a moment, noting how she dispatched 3 monsters in as many seconds, before turning his attention to the gate. The tear in reality had grown exponentially, its edges ragged and pulsing with chaotic energy. Instinctively, Naruto knew what was happening. The dimensional boundary was becoming unstable, threatening to create a permanent rift between worlds. If not contained, it would expand until it engulfed the entire city. Approaching the gate, Naruto felt something stir within him, something ancient and powerful that had slumbered while his consciousness was adrift. It wasn't Kurama. Not exactly, but something his consciousness identified as both familiar and utterly alien. "Lend me your strength," he whispered, uncertain if he addressed the nine-tailed fox or something else entirely. Response came as power surging through his network of chakra pathways, transformed and evolved beyond what he once knew. Golden energy enveloped him, 9 ethereal tails of light manifesting behind him as his eyes shifted from azure to crimson with vertical slits. Markings appeared on his skin, ancient symbols that glowed within. Light as knowledge poured into his consciousness. Raising both hands toward the destabilizing gate, Naruto channeled this power outward. Golden chains of energy, reminiscent of his mother's technique, yet fundamentally different, erupted from his palms, encircling the dimensional tier. Each link in these metaphysical chains bore complex seals that glowed with purpose. Dimensional boundary technique, sealing mandala, he intoned, the words coming unbidden to his lips. The chains tightened around the gate, constricting the chaotic energy and forcing it inward. Resistance was immediate. The W'er within the tear fought against containment, lashing out with tendrils of dark energy that scored deep furrows in the pavement around Naruto. Gritting his teeth, he poured more power into the technique. The golden aura surrounding him intensified until onlookers had to shield their eyes. The symbols on his skin burned brighter, spreading across his entire body until he appeared to be wearing armor crafted from light itself. "Close," he commanded, voice resonating with authority that seemed to echo across dimensions. For a moment, the gate's resistance redoubled, the fabric of reality groaning in protest. Then, abruptly, the tear began to shrink, collapsing inward as Naruto's chains compressed it from all sides. The crystalline structure shattered completely, fragments dissolving into motes of light that faded from existence. With a final flash of radiance and an implosion of air that knocked remaining observers from their feet, the gate vanished. Where the massive structure had stood, only a perfect circle of scorched pavement remained, complex symbols etched into the stone in a pattern that mirrored those which had appeared on Naruto's skin. The golden energy surrounding him dispersed, leaving Naruto standing alone in the crater. Exhaustion hit him like a physical blow, his knees buckling as the power receded. He hadn't fully realized the toll such a technique would take. His body wasn't accustomed to channeling this evolved energy in such quantities. "What was that?" came a voice from behind him. Turning, Naruto found Hae-In standing at the edge of the crater. Her sword lowered but still gripped tightly. Blood spattered her armor, not her own, and her eyes held equal measures of wariness and awe. "Gate sealing," Naruto replied, his voice hoarse. "It was going to collapse." "That's not what I meant." She took a step closer, studying him with unsettling intensity. "What are you? You don't smell like a hunter. You don't smell like anything I've ever encountered." Before he could formulate a response, the world tilted sideways. Naruto's vision tunneled, darkness encroaching from the edges as exhaustion claimed him. The last thing he saw was Hae-In lunging forward, her expression shifting from suspicion to concern as consciousness fled. Naruto awakened to the rhythmic beeping of medical equipment. Opening his eyes revealed a sterile room, white walls, advanced monitoring devices, and a large observation window through which several figures in laboratory attire watched with undisguised curiosity. "The sleeping fox awakens," came a familiar voice. Hae-In sat in a chair beside his bed, no longer wearing battle armor but dressed in simple civilian clothes, dark jeans and a gray sweater that somehow emphasized her athletic build rather than concealing it. Her sword, however, remained within reach, leaning against the wall beside her. "How long?" Naruto asked, his throat dry. 17 hours. She handed him a glass of water without being asked. "You've caused quite a stir. The entire Hunter Association is in an uproar." Naruto drank gratefully, using the moment to collect his thoughts and assess his condition. His energy had replenished significantly during unconsciousness, though not completely. The strange golden markings had receded beneath his skin once more, visible only as faint tracery when he flexed his hands. "Where am I?" he finally asked. "Hunter Association Medical Facility, Seoul Branch," Hae-In replied. "Technically, You're in custody, though that's a formality more than reality. Nobody Air could actually contain you if yesterday's display was any indication. Her directness was refreshing if somewhat disconcerting. Naruto studied her more carefully now that immediate danger had passed. Hae-In appeared to be in her mid-20s, with striking features that managed to be both delicate and strong. High cheekbones, expressive dark eyes, and short black hair that framed her face in a practical style. A small scar bisected her left eyebrow, the only visible imperfection on otherwise flawless skin. "Thank you," he said, "for not leaving me there." Something resembling surprise flickered across her face. "You saved my life, and possibly the entire city. Bringing you to medical attention seemed the minimum courtesy." Naruto attempted to sit up, discovering his body responded more normally now. The monsters, the shadow creatures, were they all contained? "All eliminated," she confirmed. "After you closed the gate, they became disoriented. Made them easier targets." A slight pause. "Your technique was unregistered, unprecedented. Actually, the research division has been analyzing the footage non-stop." "I bet they have," Naruto murmured, glancing toward the observation window where the researchers continued their scrutiny. "So what happens now? Interrogation? Experimentation?" Hae-In's expression hardened. "We're not barbarians. You'll be debriefed, certainly. Beyond that depends on your cooperation and threat assessment." "I'm not a threat," Naruto said automatically. "A man who can single-handedly close an unstable S-rank gate using an unknown energy technique is inherently a threat. Uzumaki-san, the question is whether you're a threat to us or for us." The distinction wasn't lost on Naruto. He had awakened in a world transformed, one where power was categorized, regulated, and harnessed through institutional frameworks. His memories remained fragmented, but he understood enough to recognize his position, an anomaly of potentially catastrophic proportions. "I don't remember everything," he admitted. "There was a cataclysm. Worlds colliding. I was caught in the middle, trying to stop it." He flexed his hand, watching golden energy momentarily shimmer beneath his skin. "I think I've been asleep for a very long time." Hae-In studied him silently, her expression unreadable. Finally, she said, "The Great Merger occurred 17 years ago. The event that combined the world of hunters with something else." "Is that what you're referring to?" 17 years. The information hit Naruto like a physical blow. Almost 2 decades lost to whatever dimensional stasis had claimed him. Everyone he knew, Sakura, Sasuke, Kakashi, all of them, where were they now? Had they survived the cataclysm, evolved as he apparently had? Or had they perished when worlds collided? "Yes," he managed, his voice tight. "The merger. That's what happened when I disappeared." Something in his expression must have conveyed his inner turmoil, because Hae-In's posture softened almost imperceptibly. "The debriefing can wait until tomorrow," she said. "You should rest." Before Naruto could respond, the door to his room slid open. A man entered, tall, with graying temples and the bearing of someone accustomed to authority. His crisp suit contrasted with the scientist's laboratory attire, marking him as administration rather than research. "I'm afraid rest will have to wait, Hunter Cha," the man said smoothly. "The association chairman has requested an immediate audience with our guest." Hae-In stood, her posture instantly reverting to professional attention. "Director Park. The subject is still recovering from extreme mana depletion." "The subject," the director said with deliberate emphasis, "demonstrated energy manipulation capabilities beyond our classification system. The chairman's request supersedes medical protocol in this instance." Tension crackled between them, suggesting a history of similar confrontations. Naruto decided to intervene before the situation escalated. "It's fine," he said, swinging his legs over the side of the bed. Someone had dressed him in simple hospital garments, a light blue tapa, ND pants that reminded him vaguely of medical ninja attire. "I can meet with your chairman." Director Park smiled thinly. "Excellent. Transport is waiting." As Naruto stood, he felt the room's energy shift subtly. Without looking, he knew additional security personnel had positioned themselves outside the door, not that conventional security would pose much challenge if he decided to leave. Hae-In clearly recognized his awareness. Her eyes narrowing slightly. "I'll accompany him," she said to Director Park. It wasn't a request. The chairman specifically requested your presence as well, Hunter Cha. The director replied smoothly. Given your unique sensory abilities and involvement in yesterday's incident. The reference to sensory abilities triggered another memory fragment. Hae-In's strange comment about how he smelled different. Something to explore later, Naruto decided, filing the information away. As they exited the medical room, Naruto's suspicions were confirmed. 6 Hunter Association security personnel waited outside, each wearing specialized combat armor with weapons at ready. Their presence was more ceremonial than practical. If yesterday's power display hadn't been a fluke, they would present little obstacle. Director Park led them through sterile corridors bustling with activity. Scientists and administrative personnel stopped to stare as they passed. Conversations faltering mid-sentence. Naruto caught fragments of whispered speculation. Closed an S-ranked gate alone. Energy signature doesn't match any known. Could be from beyond the merger. The facility itself was a marvel of technological advancement, far beyond anything that had existed in Konoha. Holographic displays showed real-time data from across what Naruto assumed was the city or perhaps the country. One large situation room they passed revealed a 3-dimensional map with glowing points of light scattered across it. Active gates, he surmised. Impressive operation, he commented. Partly to break the uncomfortable silence, partly to gather information. Soul Branch monitors all gate activity within a 300-kilometer radius, Director Park replied without turning. We coordinate with 12 other major branches globally. All hunters are registered and ranked, Hae-In added, her tone suggesting she was supplying information she felt would be useful. From E rank to S rank based on ability and achievement. The association regulates hunter activities, manages gate clearance, and handles monster containment. Monsters being the creatures that emerge from gates, Naruto said. Piecing together information. Correct, Director Park said. Though we prefer the technical term, interdimensional entities. Gates are essentially tiers in the FA. Brick of reality. Openings to pocket dimensions created during the Great Merger. The entities inhabiting these dimensions occasionally cross through when gates manifest. They reached an elevator at the end of the corridor. Director Park pressed his palm against a biometric scanner, then stood still as a retinal scan completed. The doors slid open silently. You've developed impressive systems for handling these threats, Naruto observed as they entered the elevator. Necessity breeds innovation, Hae-In said quietly. When monsters started emerging and eating people by the thousands, humanity adapted quickly. The elevator descended rapidly, digital indicators suggesting they were traveling deep underground. When the doors opened again, they revealed an entirely different environment, less clinical, more ceremonial. Dark wood paneling lined corridors illuminated by soft lighting. Traditional artwork hung at intervals, creating an atmosphere more reminiscent of a high-end corporate headquarters than a monster hunting facility. The administrative level, Director Park explained unnecessarily. The chairman's office is this way. They approached an impressive set of double doors inlaid with what appeared to be precious metals worked into intricate patterns. As they drew closer, Naruto realized the patterns were actually microscopic magical circuits, security measures disguised as decorative elements. The doors opened before Director Park could announce them, revealing a spacious office dominated by a massive desk crafted from a single slab of polished stone. Behind his desk sat an elderly man whose appearance belied the aura of power that surrounded him. Despite his age, evidenced by snow-white hair and deeply lined face, he projected vitality and authority that reminded Naruto of the third Hokage. "Ah, our mysterious guest arrives," the chairman said, his voice surprisingly strong. "Please, come in." Director Park bowed respectfully before stepping aside. Hae-In followed suit. Though her bow was notably less deep, Naruto, operating on instinct, inclined his head in acknowledgement without full submission, a gesture between equals rather than subordinate to superior. If the chairman noticed this subtle distinction, he gave no indication. "I am Go-Gunhee, chairman of the Hunter Association. And you, young man, have created quite the conundrum for my organization." Naruto Uzumaki. Naruto replied simply, "Yes, so I've been told." Chairman Go gestured toward comfortable chairs arranged before his desk. "Please, be seated. This conversation may take some time." As they settled into the offered chairs, Naruto noticed additional details about the office. What had initially appeared to be traditional artwork actually depicted historical scenes of hunters battling various monsters. More significantly, a glass display case behind the chairman's desk contained items of obvious power, artifacts glowing with barely contained energy. Yesterday at 1942 hours, Chairman Go began without preamble. An S-rank gate manifested in downtown Seoul. Standard containment protocols were implemented, but the gate exhibited unusual characteristics from inception, specifically accelerated maturation and structural instability. When entities began emerging, Hunter Hae-In's squad was deployed as first response until specialized S-rank teams could arrive. The chairman tapped a control on his desk, causing a holographic display to materialize in the air between them. The footage showed the battle from multiple angles, including Naruto's arrival and subsequent gate sealing technique. At 2017 hours, you appeared, Chairman Go continued, his eyes fixed on Naruto. No registered transportation signature, no documented arrival through conventional means. You simply manifested at the battlefield, proceeded to destroy an Alpha-class Shadow Serpent with an unknown energy technique, then sealed an unstable S-rank gate using methods that defy our current understanding of mana manipulation. The footage froze on an image of Naruto enveloped in golden energy, 9 luminous tails visible behind him as he manipulated the dimensional tier. My analysts have spent the last 18 hours attempting to classify your abilities within our existing framework. The chairman's expression remained neutral, but his eyes reflected intense curiosity. They have failed completely. Naruto considered his response carefully. The fragmented nature of his memory made complete honesty impossible, but instinct told him that transparency, to the extent possible, would serve better than deception. As I told Hunter Cha, I don't remember everything, he began. I was caught in what you call the Great Merger, the collision of dimensions. I was different then. A shinobi of Konoha, trained to use chakra rather than mana. Konoha, Chairman Go repeated. One of the hidden villages from the elemental nation's dimension. This confirmation that H's home had indeed been part of the merger sent a surge of hope through Naruto. You know of it. The association maintains extensive records of all dimensional fragments incorporated during the merger, the chairman replied. The elemental nations presented particularly interesting integration challenges due to its developed chakra system being fundamentally different from our world's mana circulation. Then there are other shinobi who survived. Naruto couldn't keep the urgency from his voice. Something like compassion flickered across the chairman's weathered features. Some, yes, though integration has been challenging for many. The transformation of chakra pathways to accommodate mana proved fatal in approximately 60% of cases. 60%. The number struck Naruto like a physical blow. More than half of everyone he had known, gone. Not in battle, not protecting what they loved, but simply because their bodies couldn't adapt to a new energy system. What of the Hokage, Kakashi Hatake? He asked, naming the person most likely to have coordinated any survival effort. Survived initially, Director Park interjected. Served as liaison between Konoha refugees and the association for several years. Current status: inactive. Location classified. Inactive could mean many things, Naruto realized. Retired, imprisoned, dead. The deliberately vague terminology suggested information being withheld. And the other villages: Suna, Kumo. This debriefing was meant to gather information about you, Uzumaki-san, Director Park said sharply. Not to satisfy your curiosity about geopolitical arrangements. Peace, Director. Chairman Go raised a hand. The young man has awakened after 17 years to find his world transformed. Some context is reasonable. Turning back to Naruto, he continued more gently. The surviving shinobi populations were integrated into hunter programs globally based on geographical distribution during the merger. Some adapted more successfully than others. Many former village alliances have been maintained informally within association structures. It wasn't a complete answer, but it confirmed that at least some from each village had survived. Naruto felt a complex mixture of grief for those lost and relief for those who remained. And now to the more pressing question, Chairman Go continued, redirecting the conversation. Your unique energy signature. Hunter Cha, would you share your observations? Cha Hae-In straightened in her chair. As the chairman is aware, my ability allows me to detect an identify magical energy through olfactory means. All hunters possess distinctive magical signatures that I perceive as scents, generally unpleasant ones that grow stronger with rank and power. She turned slightly toward Naruto, her expression professionally neutral despite the unusual nature of her report. Uzumaki-san registers differently, where other hunters produce scents ranging from mildly unpleasant to actively nauseating. He produces nothing, not absence, but something my ability cannot process, like trying to smell a color that doesn't exist. And yet, Chairman Go prompted, you observed significant power utilization. The most powerful magical discharge I've ever witnessed, she confirmed. By several orders of magnitude. But without the corresponding sensory signature. The chairman turned his penetrating gaze back to Naruto. Which brings us to our dilemma. You possess abilities beyond our classification system, an energy signature that defies our most sensitive detection methods. And emerge from nowhere during a critical incident. Under normal protocols, you would be classified as an S-rank threat and contained accordingly. I'm not your enemy, Naruto said firmly. Perhaps not, Chairman Go acknowledged. But you are an unknown variable of unprecedented magnitude. In my experience, such variables rarely integrate smoothly into established systems. The implication was clear. Naruto represented a potential threat simply by existing outside their carefully constructed power hierarchy. The chairman hadn't survived to his advanced age by allowing such wildcards to roam freely. What do you want from me? Naruto asked directly. Chairman Go smiled slightly, the expression of someone who appreciated directness. Cooperation, primarily. You possess null DGE and abilities that could prove invaluable in our ongoing efforts to stabilize dimensional boundaries. In exchange, the association can provide resources to help you acclimate to this changed world. And potentially locate survivors from your original dimension. It was a reasonable offer on the surface, mutually beneficial cooperation rather than conflict. Yet Naruto sensed underlying currents. The association wanted to study him, understand his powers, perhaps even replicate them if possible. He would be a resource first, a person second. And if I decline, he asked, testing boundaries. Director Park tensed visibly, but Chairman Go merely chuckled. Then you would walk out of this facility unimpeded, after which you would be classified as an unregistered S-rank entity. All branches worldwide would be notified. Your movements would be tracked. Any use of your abilities would trigger immediate response protocols. His smile never wavered. A rather inconvenient existence, I imagine. You couldn't stop me, Naruto stated. Not a threat but a simple fact. Perhaps not directly, the chairman conceded. But a man seeking connection in a strange new world would find doors closing wherever he turned. Resources diverted. Information restricted. A slight pause. Survivors from your dimension encouraged to avoid contact. The implied threat was masterfully delivered, subtle enig. To maintain the veneer of civility while clearly communicating the consequences of non-cooperation. Naruto recognized the tactics of a skilled political operator, reminiscent of Danzo's manipulation. Though seemingly less malevolent in intent. Before Naruto could formulate a response, Hae-In unexpectedly intervened. Chairman, if I may offer an alternative. Go-Gunhee raised an eyebrow but nodded permission. Rather than immediate integration into association research divisions, perhaps Uzumaki-san could be temporarily assigned to active field duty under supervised conditions. This would allow observation of his abilities in practical application while demonstrating good faith on both sides. The chairman considered this proposal, fingers steepled beneath his chin. An interesting suggestion. And who would you recommend for this supervision, Hunter Cha? My team, she replied without hesitation. We're scheduled to investigate the anomalous gate patterns in District 7 tomorrow. His sealing abilities would be directly relevant to that mission. Director Park frowned. Hunter Cha, with all due respect, this individual demonstrated S-rank capabilities beyond our classification system. Your team, while effective, lacks the necessary containment specialists too. My team includes 2 former Anbu operatives from the elemental nations, she interrupted smoothly. The Y would be better equipped to understand and, if necessary, counter his abilities than our standard containment specialists. Former Anbu. Naruto's interest sharpened immediately. More survivors from his world, and elite shinobi at that. The prospect of connecting with others who understood his background was deeply appealing. Chairman Go observed the exchange silently before turning to Naruto. Would such an arrangement be acceptable to you? Temporary field assignment with Hunter Cha's team, with the understanding that you would return for comprehensive debriefing afterward. The offer was carefully constructed, a compromise that would give both sides what they wanted while maintaining the illusion of equal partnership. Naruto recognized it as a political maneuver, but also as the best option currently available. Working with Hae-In would provide opportunities to gather information and potentially connect with other shinobi survivors, all while avoiding immediate confinement in a research facility. I accept, he said simply. Excellent. The chairman nodded in satisfaction. Hunter Cha, please ensure our guest receives appropriate equipment and briefing materials before tomorrow's operation. Director Park will handle the necessary administrative adjustments. The director looked less than pleased with this arrangement but nodded curtly. I'll update the mission parameters accordingly. Then I believe our business is concluded for now. Chairman Go rose from his seat, signaling the end of the meeting. Naruto Uzumaki, whatever circumstances brought you here, hope your presence proves beneficial to our shared future. The formal dismissal carried undertones of both welcome and warning, integration with appropriate caution. As they exited the chairman's office, Naruto sensed he had navigated the first political challenge of this new world successfully, though many more undoubtedly awaited. In the corridor outside, Director Park excused himself with minimal courtesy. Clearly displeased with the outcome. Once he was out of earshot, Naruto turned to Hae-In. Thank you, he said, for the intervention. She regarded him with that same analytical gaze. Don't thank me yet. Tomorrow's mission involves investigating potentially unstable dimensional boundaries in an urban environment. If anything goes wrong, people die. I understand the stakes, Naruto replied seriously. I've carried similar responsibilities before. Have you? She asked, a note of genuine curiosity entering her voice for the first time. What exactly were you, Naruto Uzumaki, before the merger claimed you? The question struck deeper than she likely intended. What had he been? Genin, technically, though his abilities had far exceeded that rank. Jinchuriki of the Nine Tails. Child of prophecy. Friend. Teammate. But never Hokage. The dream interrupted by cosmic calamity. A shinobi of the hidden leaf, he answered finally. Someone who protected what was precious to him. Something in his tone must have resonated with her because Hae-In's expression softened marginally. The equipment division is this way, she said, changing the subject. You'll need appropriate gear for tomorrow's operation. Quote, as they walked, Naruto allowed himself to observe her more carefully. Despite her professional demeanor, subtle cues revealed deeper complexity, the way her and occasionally drifted toward her sword when passing other hunters, suggesting ingrained wariness, how she maintained precise distance from others in crowded corridors, as though physical proximity caused discomfort. The barely perceptible tension in her shoulders that never fully relaxed. Your ability, he ventured. Sensing magical energy through smell. Is it unique? She glanced at him sideways. Relatively. Sensory abilities themselves aren't uncommon among high-ranked hunters, but the specific manifestation varies. Mine is particularly intense and unpleasant, Naruto observed, recalling her earlier comments about hunters producing nauseating scents. A slight grimace confirmed his assessment. Being in the association headquarters is like working in a perfume factory after an explosion. Most S-rank hunters smell like walking corpses marinated in toxic waste. The vivid description explained her tendency to maintain distance from others. Yet you said I don't register at all. You don't, she confirmed. Curiosity evident in her tone. Which is impossible, given the power you demonstrated. Even dormant mana produces some olfactory signature to my senses. You're the first exception I've encountered. They reached a secure door marked, Equipment Division. Hae-In placed her palm against another scanner, then entered a complex code on a nearby keypad. One more thing, she said as the door began to open. The Anbu operatives on my team, don't mention your name immediately. Let me handle introductions. Before Naruto could question this strange request, they entered a vast chamber filled with equipment ranging from conventional weapons to items clearly enhanced by magical technology. Workers in specialized uniforms moved efficiently among shelves and workstations, preparing gear for upcoming missions. A middle-aged woman with practical short hair approached, clipboard in hand. Hunter Cha, unexpected to see you before tomorrow's briefing. Yes shifted to Naruto with professional curiosity. New addition to the team. Temporary specialist consultant, Cha Hae-In replied smoothly. S-rank clearance, full field kit required for tomorrow's operation in District 7. If the equipment manager was surprised by this unusual request, she hid it well. S-rank consultant kit, understood. Standard loadout or specialized? Cha Hae-In glanced at Naruto thoughtfully. Modified standard. Combat-oriented with emphasis on mobility rather than firepower. No ranged weapons required. Preferred close combat style. The manager asked, now addressing Naruto directly. Hand-to-hand primarily, he replied. I don't require weapons. The woman raised an eyebrow but made a notation on her clipboard. Armor preference. Light, medium, or heavy? Light, Naruto said automatically. Any armor heavy enough to provide meaningful protection would only restrict his movement without offering benefits worth the trade-off. I'll have everything prepared within the hour. The manager said efficiently. Biometric scanning is required for proper fitting. If you'll follow Technician Park, he'll handle the process. A young man approached, gesturing toward a partitioned area equipped with advanced scanning technology. As Naruto moved to follow, Cha Hae-In touched his arm lightly, the first physical contact she had initiated. I need to brief my team about tomorrow's adjustment, she said. When you're finished here, security will escort you to temporary quarters. We depart at 0600 hours. Naruto nodded, understanding the implied message. She needed to prepare her team for his arrival without his presence potentially complicating matters. I'll be ready. As she turned to leave, a question occurred to him. Hunter Cha, why did you volunteer for this? Taking responsibility for an unknown quantity is a significant risk. She paused, considering her response carefully. 3 reasons. First, practicality. Your abilities are directly relevant to our mission. Second, opportunity. I want to understand why you don't register to my census. A slight hesitation before she added, and third, you saved my life without hesitation or expectation of reward. In my experience, that says more about a person's character than any institutional assessment. With that surprisingly candid response, she departed, leaving Naruto to contemplate his first genuine connection in his new reality. As the technician guided him toward the scanning equipment, Naruto allowed himself a moment of cautious optimism. In a world transformed beyond recognition, he had found at least one person willing to offer something resembling trust. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, a mission into unstable dimensional territory, meeting other survivors from his world, and navigating the complex political landscape of this hunter association. But for now, he had secured a foothold in this strange new reality. The fox god had awakened, and the world would never be the same. Chapter 1 End Chapter 2, Echoes of the Past. Dawn hadn't yet broken over Seoul when Naruto startled awake, phantom chakra surging through his system, a reflexive response to dreams filled with fragmented memories. His temporary quarters within the Hunter Association complex felt suffocating despite their spaciousness, the air heavy with institutional sterility. Sweat-damp sheets tangled around his limbs like binding jutsu gone wrong. She died screaming his name. The memory fragment, vivid, visceral, terrifying, lingered like a haunting. Who was she? Pink hair, green eyes, extraordinary strength. A name danced just beyond conscious recall. Sakura, his teammate, his friend, dead in the cataclysm, alive somewhere in this fractured world. The uncertainty felt like kunai twisting between his ribs. Naruto flung himself from bed, pacing the room's perimeter like a caged animal. Association-provided quarters resembled upscale hotel accommodations more than prison cells, plush carpet underfoot. Elegant furnishings, even art on walls, but surveillance devices nestled in corners reminded him of his provisional status. Freedom contingent on cooperation. Good morning, Consultant Uzumaki. Came a polite voice through hidden speakers. Hunter Cha requested notification when you awakened. Team briefing commences in 45 minutes, Conference Room Delta. Recommended dep. Order from quarters in 20 minutes for timely arrival. Requisitioned equipment has been delivered and awaits you in the adjoining chamber. No privacy, not even the illusion of it. Naruto nodded, acknowledgement to unseen watchers before entering the bathroom. Modern plumbing represented one of few improvements he'd noted in this new world. Water pressure adjustable to perfect settings, temperate. Your precision beyond what even the most luxurious Konoha establishments had offered. Physical comforts meant little without connections, without purpose. Standing beneath steaming water, Naruto closed his eyes, reaching inward toward the vast reservoir of energy that had manifested during yesterday's gate closure. The void where Kurama once resided felt simultaneously empty and overflowing, a paradox of absence and presence. No longer the nine-tailed fox but something transformed, evolved beyond Biju limitations yet carrying echoes of that ancient consciousness. "What happened to us, old friend?" Naruto whispered, voice lost beneath cascading water. No answer came except subtle ripples across his internal energy landscape, acknowledgement without communication. 20 minutes later, Naruto examined himself in a full-length mirror, barely recognizing the reflection. Association-issued combat attire consisted of form-fitting black under armor covered by flexible protective plates across vital areas, chest, shoulders, forearms, shins. Subtle runic engravings adorned each plate, dormant now but designed to activate when channeling energy. The ensemble combined shinobi practicality with technological advancement, lightweight yet offering significant protection. Most curiously, the equipment manager had included an orange-accented jacket bearing a spiral symbol remarkably similar to his clan's crest. Coincidence seemed unlikely. Someone had researched his background despite the association's claims of limited information. Movement within these garments felt natural, uninhibited. Testing mobility with a quick series of katas, Naruto found the armor adapted seamlessly, material responding to his movements with fluid precision. Technology had advanced significantly during his 17-year absence. A soft chime indicated his escort had arrived. 2 security personnel waited outside, different from yesterday's team but equally alert, hands resting near holstered weapons. Their expressions revealed nothing, professionally blank as they gestured toward the corridor. "This way, Consultant Uzumaki." Soul Hunter Association headquarters sprawled like a labyrinth beneath the city. Corridors branching in complex patterns designed to confuse unauthorized visitors. Without Hae-In's presence, security took a more circuitous route than necessary, standard procedure when handling potentially dangerous individuals. Conference Room Delta occupied a secure wing dedicated to mission operations. As automated doors slid open, conversation within ceased abruptly. 5 individuals turned simultaneously to evaluate the newcomer, threat assessment automatic, instinctive for those accustomed to combat. Hae-In stood at the room's center beside a holographic display showing Seoul's district map. Her combat attire mirrored Naruto's in general design but featured custom modifications, lighter armor allowing greater speed, reinforced gauntlets protecting her sword arm, a distinctive pale blue trim rather than standard black. Consultant Uzumaki, she acknowledged formally, gesturing toward an empty seat. "Join us. Briefing has just begun." 4 others occupied positions around a circular table, 3 men and 1 woman, each bearing the subtle signs of experienced combatants. No wasted movement, economical gestures, eyes that evaluated and calculated constantly. 2 particularly caught Naruto's attention. A broad-shouldered man with scarred hands and a slender woman whose facial structure triggered immediate recognition despite her changed appearance. Former Anbu indeed, though not wearing identifying masks now. Their posture shifted subtly as he entered, tension increasing rather than relaxing. They recognized something about him, perhaps not specifically but categorically. "Jinchuriki. Threat. Team, this is our temporary specialist consultant for today's operation," Hae-In continued smoothly. S-ranked capabilities with particular expertise in dimensional boundary manipulation. He assisted with the gate closure yesterday and has been assigned to our team for evaluation. Deliberate omission of his name, honoring her promise from yesterday. Naruto nodded acknowledgement to the group collectively, keeping his expression neutral as he took the offered seat. "Consultant, these are Hunters Minho and Ji-Woo," she indicated the 2 individua. LS without shinobi backgrounds, a younger man with tech-augmented glasses and an older woman whose weathered face suggested decades of experience. And our integration specialists, Hunters Tenzo and Yugao. The names confirmed Naruto's suspicion. Tenzo, Kakashi's Anbu colleague better known as Yamato, and Yugao Azuki, another elite Anbu operative. Both had served in Konoha's special forces, both possessed skills far beyond average shinobi, and both clearly recognized his chakra signature despite Hae-In's careful introduction. Tenzo's expression remained professionally blank, but minute widening of his eyes betrayed recognition. Yugao's hand twitched almost imperceptibly toward a weapon before relaxing. Integration specialists, Naruto repeated, acknowledging the euphemism for former shinobi. Interesting designation. Nomenclature adapted to current paradigms, Yugao replied, her formal speech patterns unchanged despite 17 years. Former operational protocols required Te-R monological adjustments following interdimensional integration. Translation. We call ourselves something different now because ninja villages don't officially exist anymore. Briefing continuation recommended, Tenzo interjected. His deep voice precisely as Naruto remembered. Temporal constraints significant. Hae-In nodded, returning attention to the holographic display. As you're aware, District 7 has experienced anomalous gate activity for approximately 6 weeks. Standard patterns disrupted, emergence predictions failing. 3 gates materialized without preliminary energy signatures detected by standard monitoring systems. She manipulated the display, highlighting 3 locations within Seoul's industrial sector. Red markers pulsed ominously, surrounded by data streams indicating abnormal readings. Yesterday's gate disruption matches the pattern, she continued. Accelerated maturation, structural instability, entity emergence at higher than predicted aggression levels. Analysis suggests connection rather than coincidence. Deliberate manipulation, Tenzo observed, studying the pattern with narrowed eyes. External influence rather than natural dimensional phenomena. Hunter Minho adjusted his augmented glasses, triggering holographic data overlays visible only to him. Energy signature analysis indicates possible harmonic resonance between manifestation points. If mapped 3-dimensionally rather than geographically. He manipulated the display, transforming the flat city map into a volumetric model. They form vertices of a tetrahedron. Yesterday's gate completes the base. The implications registered immediately across all present. Not random manifestations but deliberate placement. Someone or something orchestrating gate appearances in specific geometric patterns. Ritual configuration, Yugao stated flatly. Comparable to interdimensional summoning arrays documented in historical archives. Hae-In's expression hardened. Purpose speculative but concerning. Today's mission objectives. Investigate each previous manifestation site for residual energy signatures, collect physical samples for analysis, identify potential loci. Tie-ons for future manifestations based on established pattern. And if we encounter whoever's creating these gates? Naruto asked, drawing all eyes toward him. Containment protocol Sigma applies, she replied without hesitation. Capture for interrogation if possible. Neutralization if necessary. Under no circumstances can additional gates be permitted within the geometric pattern. The briefing continued with technical details, transportation arrangements, communication protocols, contingency plans for various scenarios. Throughout this exchange, Naruto noted the seamless integration of Te-R monology from both worlds, chakra manipulation discussed alongside mana circulation, jutsu referenced with hunter classification designations, sealing techniques categorized within dimensional stability frameworks. These people had spent 17 years building bridges between fundamentally different power systems. The result wasn't perfect integration but functional hybridization, practical adaptation rather than theoretical purity. When Hae-In concluded the briefing, team members dispersed to collect specialized equipment. Naruto remained seated, waiting for the inevitable confrontation. He didn't wait long. Tenzo approached first, Yugao flanking his right, standard Anbu approach formation for unknown threats. Both maintained carefully neutral expressions, though tension radiated from their postures. Verification required, Tenzo stated quietly once others had departed. Identity confirmation. Naruto Uzumaki, Jinchuriki of 9 Tails. Direct. Practical, exactly as Naruto remembered. Yes and no. Naruto Uzumaki. Yes. Jinchuriki. It's complicated now. Kurama and I were something different after the merger. Both former Anbu exchanged glances, communicating volumes through microscopic facial cues, another skill unchanged by time. Impossible, Yugao said finally. Naruto Uzumaki confirmed deceased during Cataclysm event. Body never recovered but chakra signature extinguished completely. Memorial established. Death certificate issued. The revelation shouldn't have surprised him. 17 years absent, presumably lost during catastrophic dimensional collision. Yi. T hearing his own death confirmation delivered so matter-of-factly struck harder than expected. I didn't die, he corrected. I was elsewhere. Between dimensions. Time passed differently. Tenzo studied him with the intensity that had once earned him the nickname, Creepy Eyes, among Konoha's younger shinobi. Confirmation protocol required. Information restricted to Naruto Uzumaki's personal knowledge. An identity verification. Prudent given the circumstances. Naruto nodded understanding before reciting. Your real name isn't Tenzo or Yamato. It's classified due to your history with Oro. Chimaru's experiments involving first Hokage cellular material. You can use Mokuden as a result. Kakashi-sensei constantly reminded you that you'd be paying for ramen whenever Team 7 operated under your command. The tension in Tenzo's posture decreased marginally. Confirmation partial but significant. Additional verification from Captain Azuki recommended. Yugao stepped forward, hand resting lightly on her sword hilt. Not threatening but prepared. Verification query. My personal connection to Special Jonin Examiner Gecko Hayate. Painful territory. Naruto recalled hearing about their relationship only after Hayate's death during the Chunin exam invasion. You were romantically involved. He was killed by Baki of Suna before the finals of my first Chunin exam. You visited his memorial regularly with flowers. Something flickered across Yugao's composed features, old grief momentarily resurfacing before professional discipline reasserted control. Verification confirmed. Subject. Demonstrates knowledge consistent with Naruto Uzumaki's historical profile. It's really me, Naruto said, dropping formal pretenses. I know this is complicated. But I need information. What happened during the merger? How many survived? Where is everyone? Before either could respond, the conference room door slid open as Hae-In returned, equipment pack slung across her shoulder. Her perceptive gaze immediately assessed the scene. The decreased physical distance between them, altered emotional atmosphere, facial expressions suggesting significant revelation. Verification complete, she inquired neutrally. Affirmative. Tenzo replied. Identity confirmed. Naruto Uzumaki. If she was surprised that her team members recognized the consultant, Hae-In concealed it masterfully. Transport departs in 7 minutes. Comprehensive debriefing can occur in transit. Secure channel available within transport vehicle. The implication was clear. Further discussion should wait until they were beyond association headquarters where surveillance was omnipresent. Naruto nodded understanding, as did the former Anbu. Personal matters would wait. The mission took priority for now. Seoul resembled nothing from Naruto's memories or imagination, a metropolis of impossible scale and technological advancement. Gleaming skyscrapers of glass and metal reached toward clouds, their arcades adorned with massive holographic displays advertising products unknown in the shinobi world. Flying vehicles traversed designated aerial lanes while ground transportation ranged from conventional automobiles to levitating platforms that skimmed just above specially designed roadways. Most striking were the visible remnants of dimensional collision, areas where reality itself appeared slightly distorted. Light bending unnaturally around structures that didn't quite match their surroundings. These integration zones featured architecture blending styles from both original worlds, traditio. Null shinobi design elements merged with modern urban development. Their transport, an armored vehicle large enough to accommodate the team comfortably while carrying specialized equipment, navigated morning traffic with automated precision. Interior configurations provided both communal space for discussion and privacy barriers for sensitive conversations. Once secure protocols activated, Tenzo initiated the delayed conversation. Information request acknowledged. Historical context. Dimensional collision event occurred 17 years, 4 months, 18 days prior to current date. Cataster. OPHIC integration of multiple realities with primary Earth dimension. Casualty rates approximately 62% global population across all affected dimensions. 62%. Nearly 2t. Herds of all people across all affected worlds, dead in a single cataclysmic event. The scale of tragedy exceeded anything in recorded shinobi history, even surpassing the Fourth Great War. The NTAL nations suffered disproportionate effects, Yugao continued, her formal tone barely concealing emotional undercurrents. Geographic integration approximately 37%. Remaining territories lost to dimensional void. Surviving population concentrated within integrated regions. What does that mean? Geographic integration? Naruto asked, struggling to conceptualize partial dimensional transfer. Hae-In unexpectedly answered, demonstrating knowledge of shinobi history. When dimensions collided, physical territories merged unevenly. Only portions of the elemental nations, approximately 1/3, successfully integrated with our world. The rest simply ceased to exist. Konoha? Naruto asked, dreading the answer. Partial integration, Tenzo replied. Approximately RTY% of village territory successfully transferred. Memorial stone among surviving landmarks. Hokage Mountain destroyed during initial collision. Another piece of home lost forever, the iconic monument defining Konoha's skyline for generations, gone without trace. Naruto absorbed this information silently, grief accumulating with each revelation. Survivors? He finally asked. Classified information, Yugao stated automatically before reconsidering. However, given confirmed identity and prior security clearance, limited disclosure permitted. She activated a secure tablet, accessing restricted files. Approximately 8,000 Konoha citizens survived initial dimensional transfer. Integration casualties reduced final count to approximately 3,000 stable survivors. ITH functioning chakra mana hybrid systems. 3,000 from a village that had housed nearly 50,000 before the Fourth War. Less than 7% survival rate. Names crowded Naruto's mind. Friends, teachers, comrades, most likely dead or fundamentally changed by the catastrophe. Rookie 9 status? He asked, referring to his original peer group. Tenzo and Yugao exchanged glances. Before the wood user responded carefully. Partial survival. Detailed status report requires higher security protocols than current environment permits. Deliberately vague, concealing specific information while acknowledging that at least some had survived. Naruto wanted to demand names, locations, conditions, but recognized the security limitations even within their secured transport. Integrat. Ion process following dimensional stability. He redirected, seeking broader context. Chaotic. Hae-In interjected, drawing everyone's attention. Her expression remained professional but carried undertones of sympathy. I was 13 when the merger happened. Old enough to remember both before and after. The world governments weren't prepared for sudden integration of super-powered individuals with completely different cultural backgrounds and power systems. Hunter Association existed pre-merger, Tenzo explained. Established organization for managing paranormal threats within primary Earth dimension. Rapid expansion following integration event. Absorption of shinobi population into existing framework through specialized integration programs. Forced conscription in some regions, Yugao added. Rare bitterness coloring her tone. Voluntary integration in others. Japan-Korean Peninsula territories established cooperative protocols through Kakashi Hataki's diplomatic efforts. Kakashi's name triggered both relief and renewed questions. He survived then. Where is he now? Another loaded glance between the former Anbu. Former Hokage Hataki served as integration director for Asian continental territories for approximately 12 years post-merger, Tenzo stated carefully. Current status. Retired from active service. Location classified under personal security protocols. Retired could mean many things, especially with the added, classified location, qualifier. Naruto filed this information away for later investigation. We've arrived at the first site, Hae-In announced as their vehicle slowed to a stop. Conversation continuation recommended after preliminary investigation complete. The location, an abandoned manufacturing facility on Seoul's IAL outskirts, bore visible signs of recent gate activity. Reality itself seemed wounded here, air shimmering with residual dimensional energy, surfaces displaying subtle distortions where physical laws had been temporarily suspended. Automated security drones patrolled the perimeter, while holographic warning signs projected association quarantine protocols. Their vehicle passed through multiple Hae-In points before reaching the primary investigation zone, a circular area approximately 30 meters in diameter where concrete had transmuted into crystalline material similar to the gate structure Naruto had sealed yesterday. Standard investigation protocols, Hae-In directed as they exited the vehicle. Hunter Minho, dimensional resonance scanning. Hunter Ji-Woo, perimeter security. Hunters Tenzo and Yugao, structural analysis focusing on symbolic patterns. Consultant Uzumaki with me for energy signature assessment. The team dispersed with practiced efficiency. Naruto followed Hae-In toward the center of the crystallized zone, noting how she unconsciously maintained precise distance from the formation, close enough for investigation, far enough to react if danger manifested. Your sensory abilities, she said without preamble. Can you detect residual energy signatures? Naruto considered this, reaching outward with senses that had evolved beyond standard shinobi techniques. Chakra detection had always been possible for him, especially after achieving Sage Mode, but this felt different, awareness extending beyond physical limitations into the dimensional fabric itself. Yes, he replied, kneeling to place his palm against the crystalline surface. But it's not like standard chakra or what you call mana. It's colder, like it's drawing energy from its surroundings rather than emitting it. Hae-In's expression sharpened with interest. Drawing energy. That contradicts standard gate energy profiles. All previously documented gates emit dimensional energy during formation and maintenance. This isn't standard, Naruto confirmed, certainty growing as his awareness expanded. It's engineered, deliberately modified to harvest ambient energy while maintaining dimensional aperture. Harvest for what purpose? Collection, Naruto replied, following intuition rather than concrete knowledge. Something's gathering power through these gates, using them as extraction points rather than transit portals. His companion processed this information with remarkable adaptability, no skepticism or dismissal despite the theory contradicting established understanding. Can you trace the collection point? Where is the harvested energy being directed? Naruto closed his eyes, extending awareness further into the dimensional currents surrounding them. Golden energy manifested around his hand where it contacted the crystalline surface, not visible Rasengan-like formation but subtle illumination bleeding through his skin from within. It's not going to a physical location, he said finally, more like, between dimensions. A void space existing outside normal reality. Something waiting there, something hostile. Hae-In pressed, hand, drifting toward her sword hilt instinctively. Before Naruto could respond, Tenzo called from across the investigation zone, Captain Cha. Symbolic analysis complete, pattern identification established. They rejoined the others, where Tenzo had created a three-dimensional wood model demonstrating microscopic engravings discovered within the crystalline structure, symbols arranged in precise geom. Trick patterns too small for normal human perception. Recognition confirmed, Yugao stated, indicating specific symbol groupings within the model. Ancient dialect predating 5 great nations' establishment. Partial translation possible through restricted archives. What does it say? Hae-In asked. Approximated translation. Beacon established. The frost approaches. World veins opened for absorption. Yugao's expression remained neutral despite the ominous message. Additional symbolic elements consistent with extinction-level ritual configurations documented in Forbidden Scrolls. The frost, Naruto repeated. The term triggering something deep within his fractured memory. Images flashed. A being of impossible coldness, reality freezing around its manifestation, worlds dying as thermal energy reversed flow. Not a what, a who, the sovereign of frost, a being beyond dimensions. All eyes turned toward him, the former Anbu tensing visibly. Classification. Monarch-level entity. Tenzo asked sharply. Beyond monarchs, Naruto replied, certainty growing as memory fragments coalesced. Something that exists outside the system entirely. The anti-existence that consumes rather than creates. Source of this information. Hae-In questioned, professional demeanor unable to completely mask concern at his sudden knowledge. Naruto hesitated, uncertain himself. I remember fighting something. During the merger. Kurama and I. We faced it when dimensions first began colliding. It was trying to exploit the chaos, use the dimensional weakening to enter fully into reality. You fought a being beyond monarchs. Disbelief colored Hunter Minho's voice as he joined their group. That's impossible. Even S-rank hunters can barely survive encounters with basic monarch servants. I wasn't just Naruto then. He replied simply. I was something else. The Nine Tails Jinchuriki at full manifestation. We drove it back but the memory remained frustratingly incomplete. Fragments suggesting cosmic battle but details lost to whatever dimensional stasis had claimed him afterward. Resonance scanning complete, Minho reported, returning to professional matters despite his skepticism. Results anomalous. Energy signature indicates coordinated activation with other sites. Geometric pattern forming multidimensional array. If theoretical model correct, next manifestation point identified. He projected a holographic map highlighting a location near Seoul's central business district, a densely populated area where gate manifestation would cause catastrophic casualties. Temporal estimation, Hae-In asked. Based on previous manifestation intervals, between 12 and 18 hours. Approximately midnight to 0600 tomorrow. We need to evacuate that area immediately, Naruto stated. Negative, Hae-In replied. Evacuation of central business district impossible without creating mass panic. Association protocols prioritize containment and previous. Enshin over evacuation for population centers exceeding 1 million civilians. You'd risk that many lives. We would prevent the gate from forming at all, she corrected firmly. Which requires understanding the formation mechanism. We need to investigate all previous sites before developing countermeasures. Logic underlay her position, but Naruto struggled with the calculated risk to civilian lives. Before he could argue further, their communication devices activated simultaneously, emergency override protocols forcing maximum volume. All units attention. S-ranked gate forming at Investigation Site 3. Repeat. S-ranked gate forming at. The transmission dissolved into static. That's impossible, Minho whispered, checking his equipment. Site 3 was dormant. No preliminary energy signatures detected. It shouldn't reactivate for at least 7 cycles. Reality fractured before he could finish. Air split apart 20 meters from their position, not gradually as with normal gate formation but violently. Dimensional barriers shredding as though torn by invisible claws. Crystalline structure erupted from concrete, growing at impossible speed while emitting harmonic frequencies painful to human ears. Defensive positions. Hae-In commanded, drawing her sword in fluid motion. The blade ignited with pale blue energy as she activated its enhancement runes. Minho. Emergency containment protocols. Ji-Woo. Civilian evacuation. Tenzo. Yugao. Entity suppression techniques ready. They moved with practiced coordination, a team accustomed to crisis response. Naruto stepped forward automatically, golden energy manifesting around his body as he prepared to implement the sealing technique from yesterday. Wait, Hae-In cautioned, positioning herself beside him rather than retreating to command distance. This formation is different. Energy signature doesn't match standard gate protocols. She was right. This manifestation deviated from established patterns. The crystalline structure grew with deliberate precision, forming not a chaotic tear but an architecturally perfect archway. Symbols etched themselves across its surface, not random patterns but carefully crafted script flowing like liquid mercury through translucent material. It's not a standard gate, Naruto realized. It's a doorway. Someone's coming through specifically. Before anyone could respond, temperature plummeted dramatically, ambient air dropping from comfortable autumn warmth to deep winter cold within seconds. Frost formed across all surfaces, spreading outward from the crystalline arch in fractal patterns that crackled as they expanded. Each team member's breath became visible clouds, condensing and freezing in the rapidly cooling air. The frost approaches, Yugao quoted from the translated symbols. Drawing her katana, the blade glowed with chakra enhancement, old shinobi techniques adapted to new world realities. From within the archway, darkness deeper than mere absent. Sea of light coalesced into humanoid shape. The figure that stepped through resembled a man formed from midnight and starlight, tall, impossibly elegant, with features suggesting nobility from some ancient civilization. His attire, formal garments that appeared simultaneously archaic and futuristic, rippled with subtle movement despite the absence of wind. Only his eyes betrayed his inhuman nature, pupils vertical like a cat's but colored deepest blue, irises containing swirling patterns resembling snowflakes. When he spoke, his voice resonated with harmonics beyond normal human hearing range. He beacon network progresses satisfactorily. Dimensional thinning proceeds according to calculations. How disappointing to encounter resistance. Despite the moderate volume, his words carried effortlessly across the entire investigation zone. Frost expanded with each syllable, ice crystals forming in complex geometric patterns that mirrored the symbols within the gate architecture. Hunter Association. Hae-In called out. Protocol demanding identification despite the entity's obvious non-human nature. This dimensional aperture is unauthorized. Identify yourself and state your purpose immediately. Something resembling amusement flickered across the being's perfect features. Humans and their administrative frameworks. So determined to categorize and regulate forces beyond comprehension. His gaze shifted, focusing on Naruto with sudden intensity. But not all present are merely human, are they? The fox returns to the game board. Most unexpected. The entity's recognition triggered cascading memory fragments, flashes of cosmic battle, dimensions shattering around them as Kurama's full power manifested through their perfect synchronization. Sovereign of Frost, Naruto stated, certainty replacing confusion. You're still trying to consume this world. Consume. The entity smiled, an expression of perfect beauty utterly devoid of warmth. Such limited perspective. I liberate worlds from the tyranny of thermodynamic progression. All existence trends toward entropy eventually. I merely accelerate the inevitable while preserving information patterns. By freezing all life into stasis, Naruto countered. Memories continuing to surface, stopping time and change forever. Perfect preservation, the sovereign corrected. The ultimate gift. Existence without suffering, without decay, without loss. Eternal moment stretched infinitely. His gaze swept across the assembled hunters. Your species spends countless resources attempting to extend lifespans, prevent aging. Achieve immortality through technology and magic. I offer the perfection you seek. By killing everything, Hae-In stated flatly, unmoved by his rhetoric. The sovereign's expression stead patience tested by childish misunderstanding. Death implies ending. I offer transformation into eternal state beyond conventional existence parameters. Your limited perspective prevents appreciation of the distinction. Throughout this exchange, Naruto noted subtle energy manipulations occurring around them, dimensional fabric thinning as the sovereign's mere presence destabilized reality. His conversation served primarily as distraction while whatever ritual the gates had begun continued unabated. The network will be completed regardless of your interference, the sovereign continued, confirming Naruto's suspicion. This manifestation merely confirms progress and allows reacquaintance with old adversaries. His impossible eyes locked with Naruto's. You've changed, Fox. Evolved beyond your former limitations. How fascinating. So have I. Naruto replied, golden energy intensifying around him as 9 ethereal tails began manifesting. And I'll stop you again. You delayed the inevitable. The sovereign corrected. Temporary setback requiring strategic adjustment. The dimensional collapse proceeds regardless, merely following altered timetable. Without warning, the temperature dropped another 30 degrees instantaneously. Frost thickened across all surfaces, transforming the investigation zone into winter landscape within seconds. Hae-In's sword flared brighter in response, its energy creating localized heat bubble protecting nearby team members from flash freezing. Preliminary demonstration seems appropriate, the sovereign stated conversationally. Observe the gift I offer. He gestured elegantly toward outlying buildings. Crystalline structures erupted from frozen ground, spreading with impossible speed toward industrial structures where evacuation procedures were still underway. Workers fleeing toward emergency transports found paths blocked by rapidly growing ice formations that shimmered with unnatural light. Stop! Naruto shouted, leaping forward with chakra-enhanced speed. The sovereign merely smiled as Naruto's attack, Rasengan formed instinctively, passed through his form without resistance. Projected manifestation only, Fox. Did you think I would risk direct confrontation before the network completes? Observe your failure. Ice formations reached the first group of fleeing workers. rather than crushing or impaling them as expected. The crystalline structures enveloped humans in translucent cocoons, perfectly preserved in mid-motion, expressions of terror visible through faceted surfaces. Perfect stasis, the sovereign explained, genuine pride coloring his tone. Consciousness preserved in eternal moment. Neither alive nor dead but transcended beyond such limited states. The gift I shall bestow upon all existent. Ce when dimensional barriers fall completely. Release them. Hae-In demanded, sword raised as she calculated attack vectors despite the sovereign's incorporeal state. They are released, came his reply. From pain, from fear, from inevitable decay, from the tyranny of time itself. His attention returned to Naruto. You understand, don't you, Fox? You who have witnessed countless deaths, countless cycles of violence repeated through generations. The pattern never changes, only the participants. Life finds meaning through change, Naruto countered. Through growth and connection. You, our gift, destroys everything that makes existence worthwhile. Philosophy from a being of destruction. How charmingly contradictory. The sovereign's expression shifted to something resembling regret. We shall continue this fascinating discussion when next we meet. The network progresses toward completion. 73 hours remain until dimensional convergence point. The crystalline archway pulsed, its structure beginning to destabilize. Your association lacks capacity to prevent what comes. Only the fox holds potential to delay the inevitable, should he reclaim what was sacrificed. With enigmatic pronouncement delivered, the sovereign's form dissipated into sparkling motes that faded from existence as the gate collapsed upon itself. Temperature normalized immediately, though froze. Chi remained across all surfaces and the crystallized humans remained frozen in eternal tableaus. Emergency responders rushed toward the stasis victims, scanning equipment deployed to assess their condition. Life signs detected but suspended, Minho reported, examining readings from his equipment. Complete metabolic stasis. They're alive but paused. Can we reverse it? Hae-In asked. Shish. Eating her sword as immediate threat passed. Unknown, he admitted. Nothing in association records matches this condition. Naruto approached the nearest stasis victim, a middle-aged security guard frozen mid-stride. Radio halfway to his lips, eyes wide with final moment of terror. Placing his palm against the crystalline surface, Naruto extended awareness into the dimensional anomaly. They're conscious, he said quietly. Horrified realization dawning, trapped in perfect awareness but unable to move, speak, or affect anything. Exactly as he said, eternal moment. That's monstrous, Hae-In whispered. Normal professional detachment cracking. That's the sovereign's definition of salvation, Naruto replied grimly. Eternal existence without change, consciousness preserved forever in perfect stasis. Before further discussion could develop, Tenzo approached urgently. Captain Cha, Association emergency protocols activated. Chairman Go requests immediate report. Transport arriving 2 minutes. Understood. She nodded before turning to Naruto. We need to report this encounter immediately. The association will implement global response protocols based on confirmed Monarch level threat. He's beyond Monarch classification, Naruto corrected. And the association isn't equipped to handle this threat. I'm not even sure I am anymore. What did he mean about reclaiming what was sacrificed? She asked, perceptively identifying the key point in the sovereign's parting statement. Naruto stared at his hand where golden energy still shimmered beneath skin. During the merger, I fought him using Kurama's full power. Something happened, a separation or transformation. That's why I woke up 17 years later with fragmented memories. Kurama being the nine-tailed fox entity, she clarified. Demonstrating surprising knowledge of shinobi matters. Yes, we were partners, not separate beings by the end. But now, he struggled to articulate the strange emptiness that simultaneously felt overflowing with power. He's not gone but transformed. Changed into something else that's part of me but not conscious in the same way. Hae-In processed this I-N formation with remarkable composure given its esoteric nature. The association will want to contain you for research purposes once this connection to the sovereign is established. The assessment W, as delivered as simple fact rather than threat or warning. Naruto recognized the truth in it. Bureaucratic organizations faced with extinction-level threats inevitably sought to control potentially powerful assets. I can't afford containment, he stated. Not with 73 hours until whatever convergence he's planning. Something shifted in Hae-In's expression. Calculation, decision, commitment in rapid succession. Emergency transport arrives in 90 seconds. Standard procedure requires all witnesses remain for debriefing. However, she glanced toward Tenzo and Yugao, who stood alert but deliberately positioned between Naruto and approaching association reinforcements. Integration specialists often maintain independent operational parameters when interdimensional entities are involved, she continued carefully. If certain team members were to pursue independent investigation of critical information while primary team handled official reporting channels. The implication was clear. She was offering him an escape route through the former Anbu operatives, sacrificing protocol for practical necessity. The decision would have significant professional consequences if discovered. Why? Naruto asked directly. Why help me against association directives? Hae-In met his gaze directly. 3 reasons. First, tactical assessment suggests you possess knowledge and capabilities relevant to this threat that would be wasted in containment. Second, the sovereign's recognition of you specifically indicates critical importance to whatever countermeasures might succeed. A slight pause before she added. Third, you tried to save those people without hesitation despite knowing you couldn't affect his projected form. Character remains relevant in tactical evaluations. Before Naruto could respond, Yugao approached. Association reinforcements 60 seconds out. Decision required immediately. Naruto looked between them. Hunter captain willingly risking career to prioritize mission over protocol. Former Anbu operatives prepared to facilitate his escape against official procedures. Allies where he had expected institutional opposition. There's someone else I need to find, he said. Someone who might understand what happened to Kurama and me during the merger. Specification. Tenzo asked practically. Hinata Hyuga. From what I remember, her Baya Kugan evolved during the dimensional collision. She could see things others couldn't, pathways between worlds. Tenzo and Yugao exchanged significant glances. Hyuga Hinata, Yugao confirmed. Current designation. Gate Observer for Asian Continental Division. Specialized in dimensional boundary analysis. Location. Research Outpost 17, Nami District. Can you get me there? Affirmative. Tenzo replied without hesitation. Extraction route established. Follow precisely. Naruto turned to Hae-In, sensing the arrival of association reinforcements beyond peripheral structures. Thank you. 72 hours, she reminded him. Whatever you discover, whatever you need to reclaim, do it quickly. I'll delay official pursuit as long as possible through administrative channels. With that pragmatic farewell, Hae-In turned toward approaching vehicles, already composing official report that would satisfy immediate requirements while omitting certain critical details. Tenzo M. Oceaned Naruto toward maintenance access tunnels running beneath the industrial complex, infrastructure dating to pre-merger world but still functional as evacuation route. Movement protocols initiated. The Wood user stated once they entered tunnel system. Association tracking systems active within 90-second delay window. Recommended route circumvents standard monitoring networks. Yugao isn't coming, Naruto asked, noting the female ANBU's absence. Negative. Remains with primary team to maintain operational credibility and information flow. Solo extraction maximizes success probability. They moved swiftly through maintenance tunnels that eventually connected to Seoul's underground transportation network, a labyrinthine system combining subway infrastructure with newer mana-powered transit lines. Tenzo navigated with practiced familiarity, avoiding security checkpoints through service corridors and maintenance ducts designed for automated repair systems. You've done this before, Naruto observed during a rare pause while waiting for automated security sweep to pass. Affirmative. Tenzo confirmed without elaboration. Integration process required occasional circumvention of institutional limitations for greater mission success. Translation. Former shinobi had maintained independent operational capacity despite official integration into Hunter Association. Unsure. Prizing given Anbu training and mindset, primary loyalty remained to mission success rather than organizational hierarchy. Kakashi. Naruto asked, using brief opportunity for personal questions. 10. Zo's normally stoic expression softened marginally. Alive. Semi-retired. Maintains shadow coordination role between surviving shinobi population and association leadership. Official status. Consultant. Actual function. Contingency safeguard. And you've been working for the association all this time. Working within. Tenzo corrected significantly. Distinction important. Shinobi integration. Maintained certain operational independence through strategic positioning. Former Captain Hitaki's directive following merger stabilization. The revelation was reassuring. Kakashi had apparently established hidden support structure within association framework, positioning trusted operatives strategically while maintaining appearance of full integration. Classic Anbu methodology applied to new world reality. Security sweep complete, Tenzo announced, returning to immediate concerns. Continuation recommended. Destination approximately 17 minutes at current velocity. They resumed movement through increasingly unfamiliar territory, areas where dimensional integration had produced hybrid architecture impossible in either original world. Some corridors featured walls that phased between solid concrete and translucent energy barriers. Certain junctions contained gravity anomalies requiring specialized movement techniques to navigate. Eventually they emerged from underground network into area Naruto wouldn't have recognized as Seoul, or any modern city. The district featured architectural elements reminiscent of Konoha, though evolved and adapted to integrate with modern materials. Traditional wooden structures stood alongside buildings where similar design elements had been recreated using advanced composites and technological enhancements. Nami District, Tenzo explained unnecessarily. Primary shinobi integration zone. Approximately 62% population originated from elemental nations dimensions. Cultural preservation designation approved by association. Oversight committee through Hitaki diplomatic efforts. The streets contained that strange juxtaposition Naruto was beginning to recognize as standard in this merged world, traditional tea shops beside technological outlets. Weaponsmiths creating chakra-conductive blades alongside stores selling mana-enhanced equipment. Children practicing basic jutsu under watchful eye of instructors wearing modified association training uniforms. The academy, Naruto asked, spotting familiar building structure despite significant modifications. Functional equivalent, Tenzo confirmed. Now designated, integrated combat arts training facility. Maintains traditional shinobi curriculum alongside standardized hunter qualification modules. Graduation grants E-rank hunter certification with specialization designation. They proceeded toward less populated area where research facilities had been established. Unlike commercial districts' welcoming atmosphere, these structures featured significant security measures, both conventional technological systems and barrier jutsu adapted from traditional shinobi village defenses. Research Outpost 17, Tenzo indicated a modest building distinguished mainly by specialized sensor arrays positioned around its perimeter. Gate Observer Hyuga maintains primary operations center within. Security systems extensive but penetrable through appropriate clearance. You have clearance. Negative, Tenzo replied. But you do. Before Naruto could question this cryptic statement, Tenzo activated communication device, transmitting specific frequency pattern rather than vocal message. Moments later, security barrier shimmered briefly before stabilizing without visible change. Sensor identification complete, Tenzo explained. Chakra signature recognized despite 17-year absence. Observer Hyuga programmed recognition parameters following merger stabilization. She was expecting me, Naruto asked, surprised. Negative. Contingency preparation only. Observer Hyuga maintained position that extinction level event insufficient to terminate Uzumaki Naruto permanently. Security protocols established accordingly despite official classification as deceased. Hinata had believed in him, maintained faith in his survival despite 17 years without confirmation. Something warm expanded in Naruto's chest at this revelation. Proceed alone from this point, Tenzo directed. Sensory barriers calibrated for individual chakra signatures. Additional presence triggers secondary security protocols. What about you? Alternative assignment activation. The Wood user replied cryptically. Information distribution network requires updating regarding sovereign manifestation and timeline. Regroup parameters to follow through secure channels. With that abbreviated explanation, Tenzo formed familiar hand seal sequence. His body dissolved into swirling leaves that scattered in artificial breeze, wood-style transportation technique. adapted for urban environment rather than forest cover. Naruto approached security barrier alone, uncertain whether Tenzo's confidence in automatic recognition would prove justified after 17 years. As he reached the intangible boundary, energy field rippled visibly, chakra interacting with his unique signature in recognition pattern. Barrier parted silently, creating passageway precisely sized for single occupant. The facility's interior contrasted dramatically with modest exterior, advanced technological systems alongside intricate ceiling arrays covering walls and ceiling. Monitoring stations displayed real-time data from gates worldwide, classification systems categorizing dimensional anomalies according to complex parameters. At center of this technological array sat a single figure facing away from entrance. Attention focused on holographic display showing three-dimensional model of what appeared to be dimensional boundary structure. Even from behind, recognition was immediate. Her hair, longer now, cascading down her back rather than worn in shorter style he remembered, remained that distinctive shade of midnight blue. Her posture reflected confidence developed through years of experience rather than the shyness that had once characterized her movements. Naruto hesitated at threshold, suddenly uncertain how to announce his presence after 17 years presumed dead. Before he could decide, she spoke without turning. Your chakra signature has changed significantly, Naruto-kun. Evolved beyond standard parameters while maintaining core resonance patterns. Fascinating adaptation to dimensional integration trauma. Her voice had matured, deeper, more assured, but retained that gentle quality he remembered. When she turned to face him, Naruto found himself momentarily breathless. Hinata had grown into her beauty, face losing childish roundness in favor of elegant features that retained distinctive Hyuga characteristics while expressing individual uniqueness. Most striking were her eyes, still bearing characteristic pale lavender of her clan's Byakugan but now containing subtle patterns resembling galaxies swirling within irises. Hinata, he managed finally. You recognized me immediately. Quote, she smiled, a gentle expression containing both joy and profound sadness. I never stopped looking for you. Others declared you lost with statistical certainty. But dimensional boundaries contain infinite variables beyond standard calculation parameters. Rising gracefully from her workstation, Hinata approached with measured steps. Her attire combined additional Hyuga styling with practical research uniform, flowing garments allowing unrestricted movement while specialized equipment integrated seamlessly through technological enhancements. Your earn corresponds with significant dimensional boundary disturbances, she continued, professional assessment overlaying personal reaction. Not coincidental, I presume. No, Naruto confirmed. The Sovereign of Frost has returned. He's implementing something called the Beacon Network, creating gates in specific geometric patterns to thin dimensional barriers. If she was surprised by this information, Hinata concealed it masterfully. Convergence timeline. 72 hours remaining according to his statement. Significant but not immediately catastrophic, she assessed, turning toward primary monitoring station. With practiced movements, she manipulated holographic controls, bringing up global map showing active gates worldwide. Pattern recognition algorithms detect geometric distribution consistent with your description. Approximately 67% of theorized network already established. Can it be stopped? Theoretical counters exist, she replied carefully. Practical implementation challenging without complete understanding of network's resonance frequency and fundamental dimensional anchoring mechanism. Her galaxy-patterned eyes met his directly. What else did the Sovereign reveal? Specific references or recognition. He knew me, or what I used to be. Said I'd changed, evolved beyond previous limitations. Mentioned reclaiming what was sacrificed to stop him during the merger. Something flickered across Hinata's composed features, recognition, concern, determination in rapid succession. Follow me. Secure laboratory contains relevant information too sensitive for main research floor. Quote, she led him through facility to heavily shielded room where security protocols exceeded even entrance barriers sophistication. Multiple scanning systems anal. YZED their chakra signatures before massive door constructed from material resembling both metal and crystalline structure slid open with pneumatic hiss. Inside, Naruto found not technological laboratory but space resembling traditional shinobi archive, scrolls and ancient texts alongside artifacts emanating palpable power. At center stood display case containing familiar object, shattered headband bearing Konoha symbol. Fabric charred around edges, metal plate cracked through center. Recovered from dimensional collision epicenter following initial stabilization, Hinata explained, noting his recognition. Only confirmed physical evidence of your presence at Cataclysm focal point. She approached specialized ceiling array inscribed on floor in patterns Naruto didn't recognize, evolution of Fuinjutsu principles beyond what had existed in pre-merger world. Activating sequence with precise chakra application, Hinata manifested holographic representation of dimensional boundary layers, MP-Lex mathematical model showing interaction between multiple reality frameworks. The Great Merger wasn't natural phenomenon, she stated, confirming what Naruto had begun to suspect. Deliberate AC, Chion initiated by extradimensional entities seeking access to primary reality dimensional confluence point. The sovereign, Naruto supplied. Hinata nodded. Evidence suggests entity trapped between dimensional boundaries attempted exploitation of naturally occurring thinning points. Cataclysmic chain reaction resulted when containment measures failed across multiple dimensional frameworks simultaneously. The holographic display shifted, showing representation of massive energy discharge at collision epicenter, golden sphere containing swirling crimson energy patterns expanding outward to counteract dimensional collapse cascade. This was me, Naruto asked, recognizing energy signature despite abstract representation. You and Kurama together, Hinata confirmed. Perfect Jinchuriki. Manifestation channeling maximum Biju energy output directly into dimensional boundary reinforcement pattern. Successfully prevented complete dimensional collapse but at significant cost. The display shifted again, showing energy sphere shattering into countless fragments scattered across dimensional boundaries. Some fragments appeared to dissipate entirely while others remained suspended in void spaces between realities. Still others, the largest concentration, coalesced into humanoid form that disappeared into dimensional pocket outside normal space-time continuum. The sacrifice, Naruto whispered, understanding dawning. We separated, Kurama and I. We couldn't maintain integration under that level of dimensional pressure. Partial separation, Hinata corrected precisely. Consison, S divided between dimensional frameworks while core essence remained unified. Biju energy transmuted into new form more compatible with merged reality structure. The Fox God, Naruto said suddenly. Term surfacing from fragmented memory. That's what the sovereign called me. The fox returns to the game board. Hinata's expression shifted to one of profound scholarly interest. Significant designation. Ancient texts reference Fox God as primordial entity predating 5 great nations establishment. Dimensional guardian rather than conventional Biju classification. Moving to ancient Skur, old displayed in specialized containment field, she indicated weathered illustration depicting 9-tailed entity surrounded by golden energy halo. Unlike traditional representations of Kurama as malevolent chakra beast, this figure appeared both vulpine and humanoid simultaneously, regal entity wielding authority rather than merely destruction. Preliminary hypothesis following dimensional stabilization, Hinata continued. Biju originally existed as dimensional guardians rather than merely chakra constructs. Great Merger partially restored original nature through forced evolution. Your action to Kurama created unique opportunity for transformation beyond conventional Jinchuriki parameters. Evolution beyond previous limitations, Naruto repeated the sovereign's words. But incomplete. He said I need to reclaim what was sacrificed to stop him. Consciousness fragments, Hinata nodded understanding. Primary essence remains within your transformed energy system, but complete manifestation requires reintegration of consciousness aspects dispersed during Cataclysm event. How? Where would I even start looking for pieces of consciousness scattered across dimensions? A's galaxy eyes seemed to look through him rather than at him, Byakugan activating with subtle pulse of chakra. Unlike traditional activation, no visible veins appeared around her eyes, evolution of blow. Oddline ability beyond original limitations. Your energy system contains directional resonance, she observed. Attraction toward specific dimensional coordinates. Fragments seeking reunification across dimensional boundaries. Primary concentration detected within former Konoha integration zone approximately 27 kilometers southeast of current position. You can see that much detail across dimensional boundaries? Naruto asked, amazed at her evolved abilities. Evolution of Byakugan following dimensional exposure, she explained simply. Visual perception expanded beyond conventional three-dimensional limitations. Ability to perceive chakra, mana interaction patterns across dimensional boundary layers. Can you help me find these fragments? Something softened in Hinata's professional demeanor, personal emotion surfacing briefly through scholarly facade. I've spent 17 years developing techniques to locate you across dimensional boundaries, Naruto-kun. Finding cons. Consciousness fragments within conventional reality presence significantly reduced challenge parameters. Before further planning could commence, facility's emergency alert system activated, pulsing crims. On light accompanied by modulated tone sequence rather than conventional alarm. Hinata immediately moved to nearest monitoring station, expression shifting to urgent concern as she assessed incoming data. Association security protocols activated, she reported. Global alert status elevated to maximum threat level. All S-rank personnel recalled to primary command centers. Sovereign manifestation, confirmed at multiple locations simultaneously. He's accelerating the timeline, Naruto realized. Creating distraction through multiple manifestations while beacon network completion continues. Logical tactical assessment, Hinata agreed. Association resources insufficient for simultaneous response across global manifestation points. She activated communication array, interfacing directly with facilities' security systems. Gate observer Hyuga implementing protocol Indigo. Facility lockdown authorized under Independent Research Directive 17 Alpha. Authentication sequence follows. After transmitting complex code sequence, Hinata turned back to Naruto. Facility security systems will report communication failure due to dimensional interference patterns. Buys approximately 4 hours before physical investigation team deployment. You're risking your position, Naruto observed. Everything you've built here. Something resembling amusement flickered across her composed features. Extinction level event approaching in less than 72 hours. Professional standing seems remarkably insignificant consideration by comparison. The pragmatic assessment, delivered with subtle dry humor, reminded Naruto how much she had changed from the shy girl he'd known, confidence and competence replacing hesitation without sacrificing fundamental kindness. Besides, she added more softly, I made promise to myself when others declared you lost. If opportunity ever arose to help you return, no institutional limitation would prevent appropriate response. 17 years maintaining faith in his survival. 17 years developing skills and position specifically to assist if opportunity arose. The depth of loyalty humbled him. Thank you, he said simply, knowing words inadequate for such commitment. Transportation arrangements necessary, Hinata continued, practical concerns taking priority. Former Konoha integration zone under standard association monitoring. Direct approach inadvisable given current security alert status. She moved to equipment storage area, retrieving specialized gear including modified chakra transmission devices and communicat. Ion equipment designed to operate outside conventional monitoring networks. From sealed container, she removed what appeared to be traditional storage scroll but featuring technological enhancements NTE graded within traditional sealing framework. Hybrid technology incorporating Fuinjutsu principles with dimensional stabilization mechanisms, she explained, noting his interest. Allows transportation of equipment through security checkpoints without conventional detection methods. You've prepared for this, Naruto observed. I've prepared for numerous contingency scenarios, Hinata corrected. Byakugan allows probability mapping across potential future development patterns. This particular scenario registered 17% probability within acceptable parameter range. Her methodical preparation and calm efficiency in crisis revealed leadership qualities Naruto had always sensed beneath her former shyness. Years of independence had allowed those qualities to flourish fully. One moment, she requested. Approaching personal workspace where specialized containment field housed what appeared to be fragment of crystalline material similar to gate structures. Research sample requires secure transport, potentially relevant to consciousness fragment reintegration process. As she deactivated containment field, Naruto sensed immediate resonance between his evolved energy system and the crystal fragment, subtle pull-like magnetic attraction between compatible elements. The sensation must have registered visibly because Hinata nodded confirmation. Resonance detected as anticipated. Fragment recovered from dimensional collision epicenter contains trace elements of Biju energy transformed through cataclysm event. Functions as tracking mechanism for dispersed consciousness elements when properly activated. Securing crystal within specialized container, Hinata completed preparation with remarkable efficiency. Within minutes, she had gathered essential equipment, activated facility security protocols to delay pursuit, and charted optimal route avoiding standard association monitoring networks. Ready, she announced simply. As they prepared to depart, Naruto found himself studying her with new appreciation, this confident, competent woman who had maintained faith when others declared him lost. Who had built life and career around possibility of his return, however remote the statistical probability. Hinata, he said quietly. After we find these fragments, after we stop the Sovereign, I want to know everything that happened. To you, to everyone, during these 17 years. Something vulnerable flickered briefly across her composed features, reminder that beneath professional exterior remained person with deep emotional investments despite years of scientific detachment. That conversation would require significant temporal allocation, she replied with subtle humor. Perhaps best scheduled following successful prevention of dimensional collapse. It's a promise then, Naruto said, deliberately echoing language that had once meant everything between them. Hinata's smile contained complex emotions, joy, sorrow, determination, hope in delicate balance. Statistical probability of your maintaining promises historically approaches 100%, she observed. Another dataset I look forward to updating. With that mixed lure of scientific precision and personal warmth, they departed secure laboratory toward uncertain future, a fox god seeking to reclaim fragmented divinity while dimensional countdown continued relentlessly toward catastrophic conclusion. Chapter 2 End Chapter 3, The Swordswoman's Challenge. Hae-In knelt before Chairman Go, her posture perfect despite the fatigue weighing on her limbs. 26 hours without sleep had left shadows beneath her eyes, yet her back remained straight, hands resting formally on her thighs. The chairman's private meditation chamber, a space few association members ever entered, smelled of sandalwood incense and ancient parchment, the traditional aesthetics contrasting with the ultra-modern monitoring equipment discreetly embedded within bamboo panels. Your report contains significant omissions. Hunter Cha, Chairman Go observed quietly. Unlike yesterday's formal office meeting, he wore traditional hanbok rather than Western business attire, his white hair unbound. Particularly regarding consultant Uzumaki's subsequent activities, she maintained perfect composure. The consultant was separated during emergency evacuation procedures following the sovereign's manifestation. Association security protocols dictated prioritizing civilian protection and data preservation over tracking individual consultants. Not technically a lie, though far from complete truth. The chairman's weathered features revealed nothing, but his silence stretched uncomfortably before he finally spoke. I have lived long enough to recognize when someone with your capabilities chooses to interpret protocols selectively, he said. No anger colored his tone, merely observation. Particularly when surveillance systems throughout the industrial district experienced simultaneous 15-minute failures during the evacuation. Hae-In had prepared for this confrontation, knew it inevitable the moment she'd facilitated Naruto's escape. System-wide dimensional interference followed the sovereign's manifestation. Multiple equipment failures reported across 16 separate districts. Indeed, the chairman sipped tea from an ancient ceramic cup. Just as separate security teams somehow failed to intercept a man with distinctively bright hair and unique energy signature moving through transportation networks toward Nami District. His gaze sharpened. Where, coincidentally, Gate observer Hyuga's facility reported communication system failures approximately 40 minutes later. Direct accusation remained absent from his statements, yet implication hung heavily between them. Chairman Go had not maintained leadership position for decades through naivety. The Sovereign of Frost threatens extinction level event within 72 hours, Hae-In said. Shifting strategy from denial to justification. Consultant Uzumaki demonstrated unique counteraction capabilities against this entity during the Great Merger. Standard containment protocol. OLs would waste critical resource in bureaucratic processing rather than threat mitigation. So you made operational decision to facilitate independent action outside institutional framework. The C. Herman's tone remained neutral, neither condemning nor approving. Sacrificing protocol for potential effectiveness. Yes. No point maintaining pretense now. I did. Chairman Go set his teacup down with deliberate precision. You've placed me in difficult position, Hunter Cha. The association functions through hierarchical decision structures specifically to prevent independent action during crisis scenarios. When S-rank assets disregard these frameworks, institutional cohesion fractures. With respect, Chairman, institutional cohesion means nothing if reality itself collapses. She met his gaze directly, unprecedented boldness before the association's supreme authority. The consultant possesses knowledge and capabilities relevant to this threat that standard protocols would neutralize through restriction. And you determined this after less than 24 hours acquaintance. I determined this after witnessing him single-handedly close an S-rank gate that would have destroyed half of Seoul. Then demonstrate knowledge of extra-dimensional entity beyond our classification system. Her voice remained level despite the challenge implicit in her words. Some threats require exceptional responses. Silence fell between them, heavy with unspoken implications. Chairman Go studied her with penetrating intensity that had broken hardened criminals during interrogation. Hae-In endured the scrutiny without flinching, conviction carrying her through intimidation that would have crumbled lesser operatives. Finally, unexpectedly, the chairman smiled, a brief expression transformed his severe features momentarily. Your former instructor warned me about this quality in you, Hae-In. The unfortunate tendency to prioritize effectiveness over procedure when sufficiently motivated. The rare use of her given name rather than formal designation signaled shift from institutional to personal interaction. She remained silent, uncertain how to navigate this altered dynamic. How many know of your involvement in the consultant's independent operation? He asked. Directly. Hunters Tenzo and Yugao facilitated initial extraction. Gate observer Hyuga presumably pro. Vita's current support based on facility communication failures. A contained conspiracy then. Chairman Go nodded thoughtfully. Limited enough for institutional deniability should outcomes prove unfavorable. Realization dawned that he wasn't preparing punishment but calculating political implications. The chairman operated on levels beyond simple rule enforcement. Strategic positioning always his priority over procedural adherence. You're not ordering his apprehension, she observed carefully. Not immediately. He rose from his meditation position with grace belying his advanced age. Quote, the association faces extinction-level threat without precedent or prepared countermeasures. Standard protocols designed for routine operations become liabilities when reality itself destabilizes. Moving to ancient wooden cabinet. The chairman retrieved scroll case that appeared centuries old, material yellowed with age but preserved through apparent preservation techniques. 17 years ago, during initial dimensional stabilization, certain contingency plans were established between association leadership and representatives from integrated dimensions. He removed scroll bearing dual say, ALS, Hunter Association emblem alongside symbol Hae-In recognized from historical archives as Konoha's leaf insignia. Including specific protocols regarding potential return of certain key assets presumed lost during cataclysm event. Understanding crystallized with sudden clarity. You expected him to return. Expected. No. Prepared for the possibility. Absolutely. Chairman Go handled the scroll with reverence suggesting deep significance. Former Hokage Hitaki insisted certain provisions remain active despite statistical improbability. The will of fire apparently includes stubborn refusal to accept probable outcomes when preferred alternatives exist. He extended the scroll toward her. Official transfer of authority requiring formal acceptance. Provisional S-rank mission authorization, Hunter Cha. Operation classification, Omega 7. Full operational discretion with direct reporting line to chairman's office only. Support resources available through secure authentication protocols detailed within. The implications staggered her. Omega 7 classification represented highest possible autonomy granted to field operatives, traditionally reserved for extinction-level threat scenarios. Chairman Go was essentially removing all institutional limitations while maintaining thin veneer of official sanction. I don't understand, she admitted, accepting the scroll with appropriate reverence. Why entrust this authority to me rather than senior operators with established history? Something resembling genuine amusement flickered across the chairman's weathered features. 3 factors determined this assignment. First, you've already demonstrated willingness to operate beyond institutional constraints when necessary, making plausible deniability impossible. Second, your unique sensory abilities provide advantages in tracking dimensional anomalies central to current crisis. A slight pause before he added more softly, third, Uzumaki Naruto demonstrated IATE trust in your judgment despite significant historical reasons for institutional suspicion. That suggests perception of character quality beyond my considerable assessment capabilities. The unexpected personal evaluation caught her off guard. The chairman rarely acknowledged emotional factors in operational decisions. Before she could formulate response, he continued in more formal tone. Say, 22 hours remain before whatever cataclysm the sovereign intends. Approximately 63 now, accounting for elapsed time since initial warning. Standard Association resources will focus on global gate suppression and civilian protection protocols. Your mission operates parallel to these efforts. Identify and facilitate whatever countermeasure Consultant Uzumaki represents. And if that countermeasure requires actions contrary to association interests, she asked, testing boundaries of this unprecedented authorization. Existence precedes institutional integrity, Chairman Go replied without hesitation. The association cannot maintain authority over dimensional ash. Prioritize survival, Hunter Cha. Everything else remains negotiable in aftermath. With that surprisingly pragmatic directive, he gestured toward concealed exit behind decorative screen, passage connecting to private transportation network beneath headquarters. Initial resource package awaits at first security checkpoint. Authentication codes within scroll provide access to restricted assets throughout operational timeline. As Hae-In rose to depart, the chairman added final instruction: maintain minimal communication protocols. Plausible deniability requires operational distance between your activities and association leadership. Translation: don't tell me what you're doing so I can honestly deny authorizing it if necessary. Understood, Chairman. She bowed formally before moving toward hidden exit. And Hunter Cha, he called as she reached the passage entrance. Personal observation only, not operational directive. Consultant Uzumaki's personnel file contains translation of name meaning, Maelstrom. Historical records suggest nomenclature proves prophetic regarding impact on established systems. Consider appropriate countermeasures for personal equilibrium maintenance. The unusual personal warning, delivered with almost paternal concern beneath formal phrasing, caught her by surprise. Hae-In merely nodded acknowledgement before disappearing into hidden passage, thoughts already racing toward operational planning rather than dwelling on the chairman's cryptic advice. She would understand its significance soon enough. The Namimori flux zone represented humanity's compromise with dimensional instability, territory where reality itself remained inconsistent yet habitable with proper precautions. Unlike quarantined dead zones where physics failed completely, flux zones maintained basic consistency while experiencing periodic shifts between dimensional states. Buildings designed with specialized anchoring technology remained stable despite reality fluctuations around them, creating surreal urban landscape where architecture from multiple dimensions existed in uneasy harmony. Hae-In navigated narrow alleyway where cobblestones from feudal-era dimensional fragment transitioned abruptly to modern pavement, then to something resembling polished chakra-infused wood from Shinobi World. Her modified hunter uniform, now bearing subtle Omega-7 classification markings visible only to authorized personnel, drew curious glances from locals accustomed to association presence but rarely witnessing S-rank operatives in their district. The coordinates observer Hyuga had transmitted led to traditional tea house nestled between high-tech communications hub and what appeared to be former shinobi equipment shop. The establishment's exterior featured distinctive barrier seals integrated with modern security technology, subtle protection system exceeding normal civilian establishments. As she approached entrance, Hae-In activated specialized sensory mode, extending her unique olfactory ability to maximum sensitivity despite personal discomfort this caused. The dimensional instability of flux zones created chaotic scent patterns that assaulted her enhanced perception like discordant symphony, each reality layer contributing conflicting sensory information simultaneously. Through this sensory cacophony, she detected familiar absence, the distinctive non-scent that characterized Naruto Uzumaki's unique energy signature. Unlike conventional void in sensory landscape, his presence registered as sensory impossibility, perception simultaneously recognizing significant energy concentration while unable to classify or process its fundamental nature. The tea house interior maintained traditional aesthetic despite technological enhancements hidden within bamboo wall panels and beneath tatami flooring. Subtle security systems scanned visitors automatically, civilian patrons remaining oblivious to evaluation procedures determining threat classification and appropriate response protocols. Seated at corner table with optimal sightlines to all entrances and exits, Naruto Uzumaki conversed quietly with two women, Hinata Hyuga, recognizable from association personnel files despite significant appearance evolution since official documentation, and another figure whose lavender clothing and distinctive platinum blonde hair triggered immediate recognition from historical archives, Ino Yamanaka, former Konoha intelligence specialist presumed integrated into civilian population following dimensional stabilization. Their conversation ceased immediately upon her entrance, Yamanaka's hand moving subtly toward concealed weapon before Hinata's gentle touch on wrist arrested the motion. Naruto merely watched Hae-In's approach with expression combining wariness and curiosity rather than hostility. "Hunter Cha," he acknowledged as she reached their table. "Unexpected to see you outside official channels so soon." "Circumstances evolved," she replied simply, noting empty cushion clearly anticipated her arrival. Observer Hyuga's message suggested time-sensitive information exchange opportunity. "You came alone," he observed, question implicit beneath statement. "Current operational status, Omega-7 classification." She seated herself formally, posture perfect despite 26 hours without rest. Direct chairman authorization with independent operational parameters. This information caused visible surprise among all three. Former shinobi, Yamanaka's eyebrows rising dramatically while Hinata's expression shifted to calculating assessment. Naruto studied Hae-In more carefully than before, as though seeing her anew through this revelation. "The association doesn't grant Omega-7 for anything less than extinction scenarios," Ino Yamanaka stated, professional intelligence specialist evidently well-informed reader. Hunter protocols despite nominal civilian status. And never to operatives below Ultra-S classification. Circumstances justified exception, Hae-In replied without elaboration. "You risque significant career damage facilitating our departure yesterday," Hinata observed, galaxy-patterned eyes seeming to perceive beyond physical appearance to underlying motivations. "Now you've been granted unprecedented operational authority rather than disciplinary action. The chairman maintains practical perspective regarding extinction-level threats," Hae-In stated. "Institutional protocols become secondary when reality collapse threatens." Naruto leaned forward slightly, azure eyes studying her with intensity that might have unsettled someone less disciplined. "Why are you really here, Hunter Cha? The association could have sent dozens of S-rank operatives if they decided to support us." Direct question deserved equally direct answer. "Because you represent unknown variable beyond institutional classification system," she replied honestly. "Because you demonstrated knowledge regarding extradimensional entity threatening global existence. Because you closed an S-rank gate us. Techniques no hunter has replicated in 17 years of dimensional research." She maintained eye contact despite the intensity of his gaze. "Primarily, because you smell like nothing when you should reek of power beyond comprehension. That anomaly requires investigation regardless of institutional directives." Unexpected honesty, particularly final statement regarding personal curiosity, shifted atmosphere around table. Tension dissolved into something approaching cautious alliance rather than potential confrontation. "Anomalous sensory profile confirmed by multiple sources," Hinata commented. "Professional researcher evident beneath polite exterior. Observer analysis indicates fundamental energy structure divergence from standard chakra mana parameters." Naruto-kun's transformation. During dimensional cataclysm created entirely new energy classification. Fox God, Ino supplied, watching Hae-In's reaction closely. According to ancient texts Hinata's been researching. Prim. Ordeal entity predating both shinobi system and hunter classification frameworks. Dimensional guardian rather than conventional power user. Hae-In processed this information with trained analytic. Cal detachment despite its paradigm-shifting implications. This transformation relates to fragmented consciousness referenced by the sovereign. Apparently I'm not at full capacity, Naruto explained. Frustration evident beneath casual phrasing. When Kurama and I confronted the sovereign during the merger, something happened. Our consciousness shattered across dimensional boundaries while core essence remained unified. I need to reclaim those fragments before confronting him again. Leading to current operation, Hinata continued seamlessly. Dimensional resonance tracking indicates prima. Rai consciousness fragment concentration within Namimori flux zone central district. Specifically, anomalous dimensional pocket maintaining variable connection to primary reality framework. In normal human language, Ino translated with Rai smile, there's a piece of Naruto's power stuck in a pocket dimension that's only accessible during specific dimensional fluctuation periods. Which is why we in this charming teahouse waiting for the next scheduled reality shift in approximately 17 minutes. Hae-In immediately grasped operational implications. Flux zone dimensional shifts follow predictable patterns despite apparent randomness. You've calculated access window to specific dimensional fragment based on historical fluctuation data. Observer Hyuga's specialty, Naruto confirmed. Obvious respect coloring his tone as he glanced toward Hinata. She's mapped dimensional boundaries with accuracy that makes association models look primitive by comparison. The lavender Yed woman accepted compliment with graceful nod, though subtle color touched her cheeks despite professional composure. Byakugan evolution following dimensional exposure created unique perceptual advantages regarding boundary layers between realities. Application of mathematical modeling to observed patterns produces reasonable predictive framework. Reasonable meaning 97% accuracy. Ino added with clear pride in her friend's abilities. Compared to the association's 63% on good days. You maintain independent intelligence network outside association monitoring systems, Hae-In observed. Addressing Yamanaka directly, the platinum blonde neither confirmed nor denied observation, though subtle shift in posture acknowledged accuracy. With apparent access to classified performance metrics and internal assessment protocols, information remains essential operational resource regardless of dimensional framework modifications, Ino replied diplomatically. Certain shinobi skill specializations transferred effectively to integrated reality structure. Translation. Former intelligence operatives maintained independent networks despite official integration into civilian population. Unsurprising given shinobi emphasis on information gathering, though impressive considering association's comprehensive monitoring systems. Your operational contribution? Hae-In asked directly. Something dangerous flickered behind Ino's casual demeanor. Reminder that beneath attractive exterior and diplomatic phrasing existed elite intelligence operative. Trained in information extraction and mental warfare techniques. My clan specializes in mind-based techniques. Following dimensional integration, these abilities evolved beyond conventional parameters. Ino can navigate the collective unconscious, Naruto explained, seemingly oblivious to subtle tension between the women. Mental landscape connecting all sentient beings across dimensional boundaries. She's been tracking consciousness fragments through dream patterns and memory impressions. Which is significantly more disturbing than it sounds, Ino added with forced lightness. Imagine swimming through ocean of everyone's thoughts, memories, and nightmares simultaneously while maintaining your own identity separate from the collective. Hinata consulted specialized chronometer DIS playing multiple time measurements simultaneously. Dimensional fluctuation approaching. Recommended preparation protocols initiation. As though choreographed, all three shinobi simultaneously activated specialized equipment. Hinata engaging modified Byakugan through subtle chakra circulation adjustment rather than traditional hand seal. Ino retrieving small crystal device that hummed with complex harmonic frequencies when activated. Naruto closing eyes briefly as golden energy shimmered beneath his skin before stabilizing into barely visible patterning. Hunter Hinata addressed her formally. Dimensional transition experiences vary significantly between individuals. First exposure often produces disorientation, sensory distortion, and temporary equilibrium disruption. Recommend chakra circulation stabilization technique if available within your training parameters. The considerate warning, delivered without condescension despite Hinata's obviously superior experience with D-dimensional phenomena, reinforced Hae-In's initial positive assessment of the former Hyuga heiress. Modified hunter meditation protocols should provide sufficient stabilization, she replied, active. Aiding specialized training developed specifically for S-rank operatives navigating dimensional anomalies. Reality shift began subtly, air pressure fluctuating as though altitude changed rapidly then stabilized. Light quality shifting through spectrum from normal sunlight toward bluer wavelengths before settling into slightly purple-tinged illumination. Gravity wavered momentarily, objects on table, becoming briefly weightless before returning to normal mass with subtle displacement. Most dramatically, tea-house interior transformed around them, structural elements remaining consistent while decorative features shifted between cultural styles from multiple dimensional origins. Traditional Japanese aesthetic briefly replaced by shinobi utilitarian design, then something entirely alien featuring geometric patterns impossible in conventional three-dimensional space, before settling into hybrid form incorporating elements from multiple realities simultaneously. Outside, through suddenly enlarged windows, Namimori district underwent more dramatic transformation. Buildings phased between architectural styles, streets rearranged geometric configuration while maintaining basic navigational continuity. And sky itself displayed atmospheric conditions from multiple dimensional origins simultaneously, creating impossible meteorological juxtaposition where snow fell through summer sunshine beneath aurora-like energy patterns. Despite preparation, Hae-In experienced significant sensory distortion, her unique olfactory ability overwhelmed by conflicting dimensional scent patterns layered atop one another like competing radio frequencies. Only rigorous control prevented physical reaction to sensory overload that would have incapacitated normal humans. Dimensional pocket access confirmed, Hinata announced. Galaxy-patterned eyes tracking invisible energies flowing through transformed district. Localized stabilization field maintaining approximately 27 minutes before subsequent reality shift. Target coordinates identified. She projected holographic map through modified equipment showing their current location relative to dimensional anomaly approximately 400 meters northwest. Location corresponding to public park in standard reality configuration but currently manifesting as something resembling training ground from shinobi dimension. Consciousness FR. Agment emanating significant resonance frequency, she continued, analytical assessment delivered with scientific precision. Defensive mechanisms detected surrounding dimensional pocket, energy conster. UCTS resembling modified barrier techniques combined with automated response systems. Translation. Whatever piece of Naruto we're looking for set up defenses to prevent just anyone from grabbing it, Ino clarified unnecessarily. We'll need to convince it we're the right collection team. It's technically me, Naruto pointed out with hint of confusion. Why would part of my own consciousness need convincing? Fragmentation creates autonomous sub-personalities with independent priorities and self-preservation instincts, Hinata explained. Consciousness aspects separated during dimension. Trauma developed distinct operational parameters while maintaining core essence connection. Your fragment might not recognize you've changed, Ino added more practically. You look different, feel different energetically, and have been through transformative experience it hasn't shared. From its perspective, you might register as imposter attempting integration for malicious purposes. This assessment clearly troubled Naruto, though he quickly refocused on immediate operational concerns. We have 27 minutes to locate, convince, and integrate a potentially hostile fragment of my own consciousness that's powerful enough to maintain independent dimensional pocket for 17 years. 26 minutes, 14 seconds remaining, Hinata corrected automatically. Hae-In rose from seating position with fluid grace, hand resting naturally on sword hilt. Tactical approach recommendations. Direct confrontation unadvisable, Hinata stated immediately. Consciousness. Fragment likely maintains significant defensive capabilities derived from Naruto-kun's combat training combined with Biju energy reserves. Stealth approach equally problematic given likely sensory capabilities, Ino added. If it has even fraction of his detection range, we'll be identified long before visual contact established. Then we don't hide, Naruto decided, standing with natural authority that reminded Hae-In he had once been designated future leader of his entire village. We approach openly, establish non-hostile intentions, and appeal to its fundamental nature rather than attempting deception. Idealistic but consistent with psychological profile, Ino muttered, though without genuine criticism. Core personality traits likely preserved within fragment regardless of autonomous development. Time frame requires immediate action, Hinata reminded them, already moving toward exit with practiced efficiency. Dimensional stability degrading approximately 7% faster than predicted based on energy pattern fluctuations. The group moved through transformed Namimori district with coordinated precision despite never having operated together previously, EAC. Automatically assuming optimal tactical position based on apparent specializations. Hinata took point position, enhanced Byakugan providing comprehensive environmental awareness beyond conventional limitations. Naruto flanked her left slightly behind, ready to advance instantly if threat materialized. Ino maintained right flank position, sensory abilities apparently monitoring mental landscape for potential hostiles. While Hae-In naturally adopted rear security position, sword partially drawn to enable instant response to threats from behind. Their path through dimensional shift presente. Surreal landscape where multiple realities overlapped imperfectly, buildings from different architectural traditions occupying same spaces without fully integrating, vegetation from incompatible ecological systems growing together in impossible harmony, atmospheric conditions creating microclimates that changed with each block traversed. Most disorienting were the inhabitants, local residents PTED to dimensional fluctuations through repeated exposure. Some appeared completely normal despite surroundings, others manifested subtle adaptations like partial transparency or gravitational independence. Few paid attention to the 4 combat-ready individuals moving purposefully through transformation zone, such sights apparently commonplace in area where reality itself remained negotiable concept. Approaching target coordinates, Hinata announced as they reached park boundary. In standard reality configuration, area featured traditional Japanese garden design with decorative pond and carefully arranged stone formations. Current dimensional manifestation transformed space into hybrid training ground, ritual site featuring elements from Shinobi World alongside structures with no clear architectural precedent. At center, where decorative pond normally existed, reality distorted visibly, space folding around central point where dimensional pocket maintained tenuous connection with primary framework. The distortion manifested as sphere approximately 3 meters diameter where air itself appeared liquid, light bending unnaturally around boundaries while energy patterns resembling golden flames flickered across surface at irregular intervals. Consciousness fragment contained within dimensional pocket, Hinata confirmed, Byakugan activated to maximum perception range. Energy S. Ignature approximately 27% matched to current configuration with significant Biju component concentration. Barrier techniques active, 5 distinct layers with progressive security protocols. Can we penetrate barriers within remaining timeframe? Hae-In asked practically. Conventional penetration techniques insufficient given dimensional instability factors, Hinata replied. However, resonance synchronization between original consciousness and fragment potentially creates access pathway without conventional barrier negation requirements. I need to connect with it directly, Naruto translated. Approaching distortion with cautious determination. Convince it we're the same entity despite the changes. As he neared dimensional pocket, defensive systems activated, barrier layers illuminating sequentially from outermost to innermost, each glowing with distinct energy signature combining chakra principles with something resembling hunter mana manipulation technique. But fundamentally different from either classification. Automated defense protocols engaged, Hinata reported unnecessarily, tracking energy fluctuations with specialized equipment supplementing her Byakugan perception. Progressive response pattern detected, identification challenge rather than immediate neutralization attempt. Golden energy rippled across dimensional pocket surface, coals. Ching into patterns resembling complex sealing formula combined with written language too intricate for conventional translation. Naruto stopped at barrier boundary, studying patterns with intense concentration. It's asking for authentication, he said finally. Verification that I'm really me through memory recognition patterns. Logical security protocol, Ino observed. Memories represent consciousness authentication method resistant to energy signature replication. Naruto raised hand toward barrier surface, golden energy manifesting around palm as he established connection with authentication system. I need to share specific memories that only I would know, core experiences that shaped fundamental identity. As connection stabilized, energy patterns flowed bidirectionally between Naruto and dimensional pocket, information exchange occurring beyond conventional sensory perception. His expression shifted through complex emotions as apparent memory transmission progressed: pain, determination, joy, grief cycling across features as significant life experiences transferred through connection. After several moments, barrier energy patterns reorganized dramatically, defensive lay. RS reconfiguring from rejection protocol to acceptance formation. The dimensional pocket boundary thinned visibly, creating aperture approximately 1 meter diameter through which glowing figure gradually emerged. The manifestation resembled Naruto yet fundamentally different. Younger version wearing traditional orange jumpsuit from pre-merger era, body composed entirely of golden energy with crim sun patterns flowing beneath surface like blood through veins. Most distinctively, 3 fox-like tails composed of pure energy extended behind figure, swaying with hypnotic rhythm that distorted space around their movement. You actually came back, the manifestation stated, voice echoing strangely as though speaking from multiple locations simultaneously. After 17 years trapped between dimensions, you finally returned. I didn't abandon you intentionally, Naruto replied, genuine regret coloring his tone. The dimensional collapse separated us, scattered consciousness across real it-Y frameworks while core essence transformed. The fragment studied him with unnervingly similar azure eyes despite energy composition. You've changed significantly, evolved beyond previous limitatio. NS through forced adaptation to merged dimensional parameters. We both have, Naruto acknowledged. You've maintained independent existence within dimensional pocket while preserving portion of our original power. That's impressive considering circumstances. Necessity dictated adaptation, the fragment replied with familiar determination. Sovereign's agents attempted location in neutralization approximately 73 times during separation period. Dimensional pocket provided concealment while allowing consciousness preservation outside standard temporal progression. This info, Machine caused visible alarm among observers. The Sovereign has been hunting fragments systematically, Ino realized, preventing potential reconstitution of whatever opposed him during dimensional collapse. Affirmative. The fragment confirmed. Entity classified as Sovereign of Frost maintains comprehensive awareness regarding Fox God's potential opposition to dimensional consumption process. Strategic neutralization of consciousness fragments represents logical countermeasure against reformation. Which explains accelerated timeline, Naruto concluded grimly. He knows of awakened and started reclaiming fragments. Whatever plan he's implementing needs to complete before I fully reconstitute. Hinata checked specialized chronometer with growing concern. Dimensional stability degrading beyond predicted parameters. Estimated shift acceleration approximately 43% above baseline calculations. 14 minutes remaining before pocket access terminates. The fragment turned translucent head toward her. Recognition evident despite energy composition. Hyuga Hinata. Evolution beyond baseline significantly exceeds predicted development parameters. Byakugan Transef. Formation represents unexpectedly effective adaptation to dimensional exposure. You recognize me? Hinata asked, surprise briefly overcoming scientific detachment. All core memory patterns preserved within consciousness fragment. It confirmed. Emotional response matrices regarding significant individuals maintained with 97% integrity despite separation trauma. Something resembling smile formed within energy features as fragment regarded each person present. Recognition extending to Ino with similar acknowledgement before turning toward Hae-In with evident curiosity. Unknown individual presents anomalous sensory profile, it observed. Hunter classification based on equipment configuration. Yet chakra circulation patterns suggest specialized adaptation beyond standard frameworks. Interesting addition to integration team composition. Before anyone could respond to this assessment, dimensional pocket boundary fluctuated violently, stability degrading as shift. Acceleration continued beyond predicted parameters. The fragment turned immediately toward disturbance, energy tails extending protectively around aperture. Intentional dimensional destabilization detected, it announced. Vocal patterns shifting toward combat operational mode. External influence affecting natural fluctuation patterns through targeted frequency disruption. Sovereign's agents AP, approaching through accelerated shift coordinates. Hinata immediately activated maximum Byakugan perception, scanning dimensional boundaries beyond standard visual range. Confirmation accurate. Diamond. Seonal thinning occurring approximately 70 meters southeast of current position. Energy signature matches recorded patterns from previous sovereign manifestation point. They tracked us, Ino realized. Used our approach to locate the fragment despite its concealment protocols. Or waited for us to do the hard work of finding it before making their move, Naruto countered grimly. Hae-In drew her sword completely. Blade igniting with pale blue energy as specialized runes activated along its length. Tactical recommendations. Defensive position establishment or preemptive engagement. The fragment surprisingly answered before others could respond. Integration procedure requires approximately 6 minutes minimum timeline given consciousness complexity and autonomous development period. Defensive perimeter necessary to ensure completion without interruption. You're willing to reintegrate? Naruto asked, seemingly surprised by fragment's immediate cooperation despite earlier security protocols. Operational efficiency requires complete reformation given extinction-level threat parameters, the fragment replied practically. Autonomous existence represents significant capability reduction compared to unified consciousness potential. With surprising coordination given their limited operational history together, the team established defensive formation around Dime. Seonal pocket. Hinata maintaining sensory awareness through enhanced Byakugan while preparing specialized sealing techniques. Ino retrieving multiple crystalline devices from equipment pouches that MMED with complex harmonic frequencies when activated. Hae-In moving to forward defense position where her sword techniques could maximize effectiveness. Naruto and his consciousness fragment beg. An integration process. Golden energy flowing between them in complex patterns resembling both chakra circulation and more exotic dimensional manipulation techniques beyond conventional classification. The procedure created visible distortion field surrounding them as two aspects of divided entity began reformation process. Multiple hostiles approaching through dimensional boundary thinning, Hinata reported. Tracking entities beyond normal visual range. Classification. Hybrid constructs combining physical matter with extra-dimensional energy matrices. Approximately 17 individual stations with coordinated movement patterns suggesting centralized control system. Sovereign's puppets. Ino identified from apparent prior knowledge. Semi-autonomous constructs that serve as his proxies in dimensions where he can't fully manifest. Nasty things. They absorb energy from whatever they touch, growing stronger while victims literally freeze from inside out. The dimensional bound. Airy 70 meters distant fractured visibly. Reality tearing open not in structured gate formation but jagged wound leaking crystalline entities into normal space. The constructs resembled humanoid figures crafted from ice and darkness. Movements synchronized with mechanical precision as they oriented toward dimensional pocket containing Naruto's consciousness fragment. Perimeter defense engaged, Hae-In stated calmly. Moving to intercept lead constructs with sword already describing complex pattern through air. The blade left trails of pale blue light as she activated hunter techniques. Specialized mana manipulation developed specifically for interdimensional entity neutralization. First contact demonstrated why she held S-rank classification despite her youth. 3 constructs converged on her position simultaneously. Crystalline limbs extending into blade-like protrusions clearly designed for maximum penetration damage. Hae-In's response defied conventional physics, her bod. Y flowing between attack vectors with preternatural awareness. Sword intercepting crystalline blades with precision that severed limbs rather than merely deflecting force. Dismembered crystalline appendages shattered upon hitting ground. Fragments dissolving into mist that rapidly evaporated. The constructs paused momentarily, apparent surprise registering through synchronized hesitation before a TTACK pattern reconfigured to address unexpected resistance level. They adapt quickly, Hae-In called out, already responding to altered attack formation with corresponding defensive adjustments. Conventional patterns ineffective beyond initial engagement. Absorption capability limited to direct physical contact, Hinata observed through Byakugan analysis. Internal energy circulation psi, stem vulnerable to disruption through precise chakra injection at junction points. Demonstrating this analysis, she executed modified gentle fist technique against construct that circumvented Hae-In's position, fingers glowing with precise chakra concentration as they struck seemingly random points across crystalline structure. The entity shuddered violently before internal energy pathways visibly disrupted, causing catastrophic structural failure that collapsed entire form into rapidly evaporating fragments. Effective neutralization technique confirmed, Hinata stated with scientific detachment belying the impressive combat application of her analytical abilities. Ino contributed through less direct but equally effective methodology, crystalline devices activated in specific geometric pattern around defensive perimeter creating resonance field that disrupted coordination between constructs. Their movements became temporarily unsynced, attack efficiency dropping dramatically as centralized control wavered. Mental disruption field affects their control network, she explained, maintaining complex hand seal to sustain technique. Won't stop them completely but forces UAL operation rather than hive mind coordination. Despite these advantages, the construct's numerical superiority presented significant challenge as integration process continued between Naruto and his consciousness fragment. The golden energy sphere surrounding them pulsed with increasing intensity, dimensional pocket gradually collapsing as fragment transferred fully into primary reality framework. Integration approximately 67% complete, Hinata reported between defensive maneuvers. Dimensional stability continues degrading beyond predicted parameters. Estimated complete shift in 7 minutes. 43 seconds. Hae-In maintained primary defensive position through increasingly complex sword techniques, blade moving with impossible speed as she intercepted multiple constructs simultaneously. Her fighting style revealed specialized training beyond standard hunter protocols, techniques incorporating elements from multiple martial traditions synthesized into uniquely effective personal methodology. Despite her skill, physical limitations inevitably asserted themselves after 29 hours without rest. A momentary hesitation, millisecond delay in transit, ioning between defensive patterns, created opening that constructs immediately exploited with mechanical efficiency. Crystalline blade penetrated her guard, slicing through armor reinforcement at Elder Junction where protection necessarily thin to permit full mobility. Blood spattered across frozen ground as Hae-In disengaged with controlled roll that prevented follow-up attack from connecting. Hunter injured, Hinata announced unnecessarily, already moving to provide covering support while maintaining sensory awareness of integration process. Construct energy absorption initiated through wound contact. Countermeasures required immediately. Hae-In felt unnatural cold spreading from injury site, not normal pain but cellular-level energy extraction process. The construct's attack had transferred portion of its fundamental nature into wound, progressive freezing spreading through surrounding tissue with alarming speed. Before countermeasures could be implemented, unexpected intervention occurred. The energy sphere surrounding Naruto and his fragment pulsed violently before golden tendrils extended outward, whip-like projections that intercepted approaching constructs with devastating effectiveness. Where energy contacted crystalline entities, molecular disintegration occurred instantly. Constructs simply ceased existing rather than shattering or dissolving. Integration accelerated, Hinata observed with scientific interest despite combat circumstances. External threat to operational team triggered prioritization shift within reformation process. The Golden sphere collapsed entirely as Naruto emerged, transformed significantly from moments earlier. His appearance remained fundamentally human but enhanced with visible energy manifestation, eyes shift. From azure to crimson with vertical slit pupils, skin bearing intricate golden markings resembling both sealing formulas and ancient script, and most dramatically, 3 distinct golden tails composed of pure energy extending behind him. "Get away from her," he stated simply, voice resonating with harmonic undertones beyond normal human vocal range. The authority within those 4 words carried weight transcending physical sound, dimensional pressure accompanying verbal command that affected reality itself around him. Remaining constructs hesitated simultaneously, first independent reaction. suggesting recognition of threat beyond their design parameters. This hesitation proved fatal as Naruto gestured casually toward them, golden energy extending from palm in pressurized wave that encountered no meaningful resistance. Where this energy passed, constructs simply ceased existing, not destroyed but fundamentally erased from reality framework. With immediate threat neutralized, Naruto too RNED attention toward injured Hae-In, approaching with controlled movements suggesting awareness of his altered state's potential intimidation factor. He knelt beside her with evident concern. The energy absorption continues, he observed, studying spreading cold pattern beneath her skin with enhanced perception. Their attacks initiate progressive freezing process that continues independently once established. Countermeasures, she asked through gritted teeth, maintaining composure despite increasing pain as cellular structure began crystallizing from point of injury. Instead of answering verbally, Naruto placed palm gently against wounded shoulder. Golden energy transferred through contact, not invasive but enveloping affected area with warmth that directly countered freezing process. The sensation resembled sunshine breaking through winter storm, gradual thawing that restored proper feeling without sudden painful transition. Fox God energy naturally opposes Sovereign's fundamental nature, he explained as healing progressed. Dimensional opposites on fundamental conceptual level, creation versus entropy, warmth versus absolute zero. This fragment specialized in healing techniques during separation period. Fortunate specialization, Hae-In observed, clinical detachment maintaining professional demeanor despite intimate proximity healing process required. Infection neutralized effectively, Naruto smiled, expression combining familiar warmth with something ancient behind his transformed eyes. You're welcome. Hinata approached with specialized scanning equipment, monitoring dimensional stability with evident concern. Complete reality shift accelerated beyond sustainable monitoring parameters. Approximately 3 minutes, 27 seconds remaining before total reconfiguration. We need to exit transformation zone before shift completes, Ino added urgently. Being caught between dimensional configurations during complete transition causes serious problems ranging from nausea to complete cellular dissociation depending on individual compatibility factors. Can you move? Naruto asked Hae-In, healing process apparently complete though. Golden energy continued flowing gently around former wound site. Affirmative, she confirmed, rising smoothly despite recent injury, testament to both effective healing and personal resilience. Quote, operational capacity restored to approximately 93% baseline. Good enough, he nodded before addressing entire team. Exit pattern alpha through southeastern corridor, most stable dimensional pathway according to Hinata's earlier mapping. I'll maintain stabilization field around group to prevent transition effects during evacuation. They moved with coordinated precision, Hinata navigating optimal route through increasingly unstable dimensional landscape while Naruto generated protective field surrounding team members. Ino maintained secondary sensory awareness focused on potential pursuit, while Hae-In adopted rear security position despite recent injury. Around them, Namimori Flux Zone underwent accelerated transformation, buildings phase shifting between dimensional states with increasing frequency. Streets rearranging geometric configurations seemingly at random, atmospheric conditions cycling through impossible combinations as reality frameworks separated and recombined chaotically. Transition effects intensifying beyond predicted parameters, Hinata reported as they navigated final approach toward stable territory. Sovereign's interference continues affecting natural fluctuation patterns. Deliberate destabilization rather than random acceleration. He's trying to trap us between dimensions, Naruto concluded grimly, golden energy field surrounding. Team intensifying as external reality degraded further. Create permanent dimensional pocket where we be effectively removed from primary reality framework without direct confrontation. Clever, tactical approach given his limited manifestation capabilities in this dimension, Hae-In observed, professional assessment transcending personal danger. Eliminates opposition without expending significant resources. 1 minute, 14 seconds to stable territory threshold, Hinata announced, Byakugan tracking optimal pathway through chaotic transformation landscape. Dimensional degradation approaching critical instability vertex. Recommended maximum acceleration regardless of exposure risk. Without verbal coordination, all 4 increased pace simultaneously, moving from Control A. D. Advanced to outright sprint despite hazardous conditions. Naruto's protective field contracted slightly to maintain effectiveness at higher velocity, golden energy fluctuating visibly as it countered increasingly erratic dimensional shifts around them. They reached stable territory threshold with 17 seconds remaining before complete transformation, crossing invisible boundary where reality maintained consistent parameters rather than fluctuating between dimensional states. The transition manifested physically as resistance briefly intensifying before giving way completely, sensation sim. Alar to pushing through viscous fluid before breaking surface tension. Emerging into normal Namimori district proved almost disorienting after extended exposure to fluctuating reality, consistent phys. ICS and stable environmental conditions suddenly replacing chaotic dimensional patterns. Buildings maintained single architectural configuration, streets remained geometrically constant, and atmosphere. IC conditions reflected standard autumn parameters rather than impossible combinations. Transition complete, Hinata confirmed unnecessarily, deactivating Byakugan with visible relief, extended Yuso. F evolved Dojutsu apparently taxing despite enhanced capabilities. Dimensional boundary re-established with standard fluctuation patterns resumed. Sovereign's influence temporarily neutralized within this reality framework. Temporarily being key word, Ino added, collapsing onto convenient bench with dramatic exhaustion. He'll track us again once he recalibrates to our dimensional coordinates. That was just opening move in what promises to be increasingly unpleasant game of multidimensional cat and mouse. Naruto's transformation gradually subsided as immediate danger passed, golden markings receding beneath skin. Eyes returning to normal azure coloration, energy tails dissipating into ambient atmosphere though residual glow remained visible to enhanced perception. The power remained accessible but contained rather than actively manifested. The fragment integration stabilized successfully, he reported, running internal assessment with evident satisfaction. Approximately 23% of fragmented consciousness reclaimed with corresponding power restoration. Access to certain specialized techniques restored, particularly healing methodologies and dimensional barrier manipulation. 23% yet produces this level of opposition effectiveness, Hae-In observed, professional assessment colored by having witnessed his capabilities firsthand. Complete restoration would create power classification beyond existing hunter parameters. That's why the Sovereign accelerated his timeline, Hinata concluded, analytical mind connecting operational implications immediately. Statistical probability of successful opposition increases exponentially with each fragment reintegration. At current progression rate, complete reformation would occur within approximately 6 days assuming consistent location and integration parameters. And he gave us 72 hours until whatever cataclysm he's planning completes, Naruto recalled grimly. Now Regic, ed to approximately 58 remaining. Meaning we need additional fragments immediately, Ino stated practically. Preferably those containing combat specializations rather than just healing capabilities. Helpful as those proved today. Hae-In maintained silent observation throughout this exchange, studying Naruto with professional interest as transformation subsided. Despite external appearance returning to essentially normal human parameters, subtle differences remained visible to her enhanced perception, energy circulation patterns fundamentally altered from previous configuration. Cellular regeneration rate accelerated beyond normal biological limitations, and most significantly, the unique non-scent characteristic of his presence intensified rather than diminished following fragment integration. You still can't categorize my energy signature, he observed, catching her analytical gaze with unexpected perceptiveness. Even after seeing transformation manifestation directly. Negative, she confirmed without embarrassment at being caught studying him. Sensory profile remains outside classification parameters despite observable power utilization. Phenomenon defies conventional explanation within existing theoretical frameworks. Something resembling amused understanding crossed his features, recognition of shared frustration regarding unexplainable aspects of current situation. Welcome to my world, he replied with surprising humor given circumstances. Apparently I don't make sense to myself either. The unexpected joke, delivered with genuine warmth rather than bitterness, shifted something in Hae-In's professional assessment. Beyond tactical asset evaluation or anomalous phenomenon analysis, she found herself responding to uniquely human quality. transcending his extraordinary abilities, capacity for authentic connection despite overwhelming circumstances. Hinata's specialized equipment activated with urgent notification tone, interrupting potential response. Priority communication through secure channel, she announced, examining encrypted message with rapidly shifting expression. Intelligence Division reports simultaneous gate manifestations across 17 major population centers globally. Pattern consistent with beacon network progression but accelerated beyond predicted development timeline. He's not waiting, Naruto realized immediately. The Sovereign is pushing forward with original plan while simultaneously hunting consciousness fragments. Two-pronged strategy forcing response division between immediate crisis management and long-term countermeasure development. Association resources insufficient for comprehensive coverage given manifestation distribution parameters, Hinata continued, reviewing tactical assessment with professional detachment. S-rank hunter deployment already exceeded sustainable operational rotation schedules following initial sovereign manifestation. Additional manifestations require prioritization protocols implementing acceptable casualty threshold calculations. The clinical phrasing couldn't disguise horrific implications. Hunter Association forced to decide which population centers received adequate protection based on strategic importance rather than humanitarian considerations. Millions potentially sacrificed because defensive resources simply couldn't stretch far enough. Omega-7 classification provides resource prioritization authority, Hae-In observed, activating secure communication channel through specialized equipment provided within Chairman's resource package. Operational discretion parameters include asset reallocation during extinction-level threat scenarios. You'd redirect association resources toward fragment recovery rather than civilian protection. Ino asked sharply, intelligence specialist apparently surprised by pragmatic assessment from Hunter representative. I'd prioritize developing viable countermeasure over implementing stopgap defensive measures that merely delay inevitable catastrophic failure, Hae-In corrected without defensiveness. Tactical assessment suggests complete Fox God reformation represents only potential opposition capacity matching Sovereign's fundamental threat classification. She's right, Naruto acknowledged grimly, temporary lightness completely vanished beneath weight of strategic reality. The association could deploy every S-rank hunter simultaneously and barely slow the Sovereign's manifestation process. Complete consciousness reintegration represents only viable countermeasure based on available intelligence. Hinata manipulated specialized equipment, expanding holographic display to show global map with highlighted locations. Consciousness fragment resonance tracking I indicates 3 additional significant concentrations within accessible dimensional parameters. Primary signal strength registered approximately 30 km north, mountainous territory formerly classified as Training Ground 17 within original Konoha territorial configuration. That's where Kakashi tested us, Naruto recognized immediately. The Bell test location where Team 7 officially formed. Significant emotional resonance location, Ino observed with professional interest. Consciousness fragments naturally gravitate toward dimensionally transferred territories holding particular psychological importance to original personality matrix. 3 fragments within theoretically accessible range represents significant potential power restoration percentage, Hinata calculated. Approximately 47% additional consciousness recovery assuming successful integration of all identified concentrations. Combined with current 23% would approach 70% total restoration. Naruto concluded, potentially sufficient threshold for direct confrontation depending on specific capability distribution among fragments. Hae-In made mediate tactical decision based on available intelligence and operational parameters. Priority assignment to northern fragment given proximity and apparent significance. Association resources redirect CTED to maintain containment protocols at global manifestation points while specialized team pursues primary countermeasure development. The authoritative declaration, delivered without hesitation despite significant implications, drew evaluative gazes from all 3 former shinobi. Naruto particularly studied her with newfound appreciation, recognizing command capability beneath professional exterior. Omega-7 classification is no joke, he observed with respect rather than challenge. You're effectively redirecting global defense strategy based on field assessment. Extinction level REITs require decisive response protocols regardless of institutional hierarchies, she replied simply. The chairman granted this authority specifically because conventional response frameworks prov. Insufficient against unconventional opposition methodologies. Hinata nodded approval at this assessment, scientific mind apparently appreciating logical approach transcending emotional considerations. Transportation arrangements necessary for mountain territory access. Conventional vehicles insufficient given terrain limitations and potential association monitoring parameters. I have resources, Ino interjected with cryptic smile. Benefits of maintaining independent network outside official channels. Transportation, equipment, safe houses, necessities for operations beyond institutional oversight. Your intelligence network extends beyond information gathering into direct operational support capabilities, Hae-In observed without accusation, professional recognition rather than criticism. Integration process following dimensional merger necessitated certain pragmatic adaptations, Ino replied diplomatically. Particularly for specialists whose abilities proved concerning to institutional classification systems. Translation. Former intelligence operatives maintained comprehensive support infrastructure outside association control due to justified paranoia regarding potential containment protocols against abilities deemed threatening to established power structures. 58 hours remaining until sovereigns announced convergence point, Hinata reminded them. Refocusing discussion on immediate operational priorities. Mountain territory approximately 97 minutes transit time utilizing optimal transportation methodology. Additional fragments require location and integration within severely constrained timeline parameters. Then we move immediately, Naruto decided, natural leadership emerging without conscious effort. The sovereign won't stop hunting us while simultaneously implementing beacon network completion. We need every advantage possible before direct confrontation becomes inevitable. As group prepared for departure, Hae-In found herself re-evaluating initial assessment regarding unusual team composition. Despite minimal operational history together, these individuals demonstrated remarkable coordination efficiency, adapting to each other's capabilities while maximizing collective effectiveness beyond individual contribution parameters. Most significantly, she recognized Naruto's natural catalytic effect upon grow-up dynamics, not through explicit authority assertion but fundamental character quality that inspired cooperative efficiency beyond conventional teamwork methodologies. The chairman's cryptic warning about maelstrom effect on established systems suddenly gained practical significance beyond abstract observation. For first time in distinguished operational career spanning dozens of high classification missions, Hae-In encountered individual whose mere presence fundamentally altered standard assessment parameters, tactically, strategically, and most concerning, personally. Her inability to categorize his energy signature through conventional sensory methodology suddenly seemed metaphorically significant beyond technical classification challenge. Some things defied conventional cation systems by their fundamental nature. The fox god apparently represented such anomaly across multiple assessment frameworks simultaneously. As they departed stable territory toward uncertain confrontation with forces beyond dimensional classification systems, Hae-In acknowledged uncomfortable truth beneath professional exterior. This mission had already progressed beyond institutional parameters into territory where personal judgment would ultimately determine success or failure regardless of operational authority classification. The true swordswoman's challenge had only begun. Chapter 3 End. The end. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Remember to subscribe and like this video. See you in the next video.